Hello? 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 Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Okay, so still a few house cleaning tips. My chat here will be, what is it? Like I said, it's all new. I kind of put it in a spot right here. Hopefully, it's in a spot where everything can be read. But we'll have to probably be moving it a lot during our stream. I don't know, because like I said, it just copied over from the other thing. It worked well yesterday, but today we're gonna probably have to move it a lot. I'm sorry. Give me just a sec. Sorry about that. I had to. I've been dealing with some stuff outside of, in the real world, so to speak. I just had to wrap that up. I didn't know that I was gonna have to wrap it up, but anyway. So today we got our typical lineup. We got some Endymion, who's great at this channel. We love him. We got Bellular, who's great, gives us good news. Then we got a new one. We got a real life fake wizard video. Now, I love real life fake wizard. He's great. I recently came across his channel and everything about his channel is awesome. I love it. Like, the persona's great. The way he talks about things are very thorough, very to the point. I can't suggest his channel enough. And more importantly, he always likes to suggest and showcase indie games. And he has this site right here, or at least he usually talks about this site right here, called Fake Portal. On Fake Portal, is it showing it right now? I think it is. My live just decided to pause, which is really kind of funny. Imagine how that works. It's a place where you can go to find new indie games, new indie game releases, and it's definitely a great resource if you're looking for indie games. I cannot suggest it enough. They have a lot of things here, a lot of good games that, I've seen on Steam. Yeah, give it a check out. I'm sure that they'd be very happy about that. I'm sure that if you give it a look, that looks interesting. I'll have to look at that one. Anyway, I'm sure that they would appreciate it very much if you gave it a check out. Then we got some more regular things. Sydney Watson put out another video about influencers. Could be interesting. We'll probably make it to there. That might be the last one that we do for the day. Hopefully we'll be able to continue on because it seems we got a couple of short ones coming up. But I really wanted to get into this one because it looks like it's just going to be funny. Because I definitely think that, influencers as a general concept has kind of become somewhat of a joke. I say as I am behind a camera with a VTuber avatar, casting stones as the pot, so to speak. Then we have a follow-up for Shoe on Head, which I'm not gonna lie, I've seen some things on it. It seemed a little funny. I know that Smuggalana, another VTuber, gets kind of showcased a little bit, or at least they did it together, which is really awesome because I like to watch Smuggalana, and I'm sure that they had a great time doing that. So I'm happy to see that. And then we've got a couple of controversial videos. One from Mensis Wave, which is, I hesitate to call him a controversial because I don't think that he's very controversial, but I'm sure that some people do. But I'm kind of curious where we're going with this, especially in the wake of Mixtape. And another one from a content creator that I know called Izzy's, which we probably won't get to today, but I liked watching her content. I like watching her content. She makes really great content on YouTube. Her and I most likely and most definitely don't agree on literally anything, but that's okay. And I like the stuff that she makes, but now she's going to be talking about like video games, cozy games, and misogyny, and that's something that I definitely have strong opinions about, and it will be interesting to be able to engage with a different side of the argument, at least from my perspective, that maybe I don't see. Like I said, we probably won't make it to that one, but I wanted to give everybody a heads up that the latter half of this could get a little contentious. Anywho, we are now going to move on to Subnautica 2, something about the Stop Killing Games movement from Endymion. This came out 2 days ago. I'm curious as to what this is all about.
You will
So
become
let's
comfortable with
see.
the idea of owning nothing that you buy in the future, and if you say anything against that, you're
Mhm.
the problem, and we've heard that before.
I will never be comfortable with that. I will fight tooth and nail to make sure that I can at least own something.
Or haven't we? Subnautica 2 just came out, and if you read into its EULA and then some, it's clear that Krafton is kind
Okay,
of
so this
pulling
is
an
about
anti-
this is about the craft on EULA or the Subnautica 2 EULA. I've actually heard a little bit about this. I heard that there was some type of controversy about it, but I'm not sure like distinctly what it is. Then again, like it's craft on. Antipathy. Oh my god, I can't speak today. Antipathy that I have for craft on will extend generations through my family.
stop killing games on everybody. As this user said on the Steam forum,
Hmm.
saying that in Subnautica 2's EULA or end user license
Right, which
agreements, that
seems
if you buy the game,
typical.
you don't actually own it. People on
Sure.
Twitter then shared a massive list of Subnautica 2's EULA, which is so big I can't even properly fit it onto the screen. In order
Well, I mean, like that seems like typical for video games nowadays because pretty much every EULA says the same thing, as far as I am
for you
aware.
to see just how everything is in it and how long it is, man. So I'll just tell you what's included in this EULA because it's kind of crazy, dude. So let me read you some of it because, again, it's so long. First off, if you buy Subnautica 2, you don't own it. That is made fact.
Which is typical for most games nowadays. They state straight up in the EULA that you are not purchasing the game, you are purchasing a license to play the game, which every time I have to accept an EULA causes me heart palpitations.
In its licenses agreement. You are simply renting it despite paying the price that you pay for it. Another weird user agreement part is that Krafton makes you confirm by playing Subnautica 2 that you cannot publish recordings, screenshots, or stream the game itself without a disclaimer claiming that what's being shown is not supported by Krafton themselves. That's weird. So
that is okay, that's a little weird. Hang on, no, wait a minute. Wait a minute, no, come back, Craft on. What? Why?
essentially, they need you to tell everyone you're not sponsored by them to play the game, and that any and all footage of Subnautica 2 that is used by anyone on the internet is also subject to the very EULA you have to sign in order to, play the game in the first place.
So as like a business matter, I can understand where that's coming from. Like purely and strictly on a business matter, being able to say that on a stream you are not supported by Craft on kind of alleviates a little bit of legality of like on their like legal incumbency on their part. So I can understand why they would have that. The point is that they hit it in their EULA and didn't just straight up tell people. That's a little weird.
You also cannot upload said content.
It's like a Trojan horse clause that would allow them to take down any stream that they don't like
onto a paid platform, which that one is nebulous. Maybe they mean Patreon, but if it could also be YouTube, which that makes zero sense either. So does that mean that every video of Subnautica 2 is cooked then? Like that would be disastrous, including this one too, by the way. One of the points in the EULA states that Krafton can apparently take access away from you at any point for any reason without prior notice. And this
again, I think that's usually typical
many times in this agreement.
in most
so
EULAs.
That's good to know, that you can just lose access for no reason, I guess. The terms of the agreement can also change for any reason that Krafton
You can lose
wishes
access to any
without your
game for any
consent,
reason.
and they also don't need to give you prior notice either to doing this, which is another point that is brought up many, many times in this EULA, by the way, as well. One of the weirder parts of this whole thing is apparently Krafton has the right to remotely access your game while you are playing it, which that sounds concerning. Like, how does that even work? Like, they just hack into your game? Does that mean by playing Subnautica 2 it acts as a portal somewhat for Krafton to access your PC?
I feel like a lot of games do that though. Like Helldiver devs apparently have like a mode where they can control the enemies, which technically would be kind of fulfilled by, I would think, this type of thing. I know that there are a lot of streamers out there that play like, was it the frustration games, whatever those frustration games are. And in some of them, the developers literally go into their game and mess with them. So, I mean, I've seen that before. Maybe they have to legally protect that, but I'm not entirely sure.
Or something? Probably not. That doesn't seem ethical, so I would say no, which is, well, again, very weird, but nobody seems to be bringing that up anywhere as far as I can see.
Right.
You also apparently cannot stream Subnautica 2 without Krafton's approval, which is, again, weird.
That is weird.
Considering just how many games on the internet are being streamed all of the time. You also...
Right, and I wonder how much they've actually utilized that as like an impetus to bring down streams and or recordings, because I'd be interested to see if they actually use that ever legally, or if they have that just in case they need to sit on it to use it for something else. Because I feel like they might be using that or having that in their terms of service as like a hidden Trojan horse in a way for them to be able to say, hey, we don't like what you're doing with your stream and we can't come out and straight up say we don't like it, but you violated the terms of service. So now we can either take away access to your game or tell you to take down gameplay footage because you technically are violating your terms of service.
Cannot play Subnautica 2.
That's what I would do if I was an asshole.
Unless you buy multiple licenses. There's also clauses allegedly in this EULA, from what I'm reading, that you cannot tarnish Krafton's image or reputation outside of the game if you have bought the game. Which I guess
why would I ever tarnish Krafton's image when they tarnish it themselves?
That means I'm good here because I have not bought the game yet, so I guess that means
I never have either. I probably never will. Fuck you, Krafton. You are an absolute piece of shit company. I hate you. I wish more gamers hated you. I honestly hope to God that your company dies, and I honestly hope to God that we never have to see another entity like Krafton again.
Okay, like this
there,
is so
I'll never
weird.
be able to play Subnautica 2, boys.
To deceive or exploit Krafton according to the EULA as well. The definition of what this even entails is determined by Krafton themselves, which just seems again very, very weird. You also cannot exploit bugs in the game or use indecent nicknames in game as well. You are also not allowed to use another person's account in order to play the game. You are also not allowed to use any VPNs.
What does that mean for Steam family sharing though? Does that mean that you can't family share the game?
Or any technology that will mask your location while playing Subnautica 2 as well.
Okay.
That is, what is going on, dude? There's apparently also a clause that says that you are not allowed to take action that goes against social norms. What does that mean? Like, you can't speak about Subnautica 2 in a video if you're criticizing it?
I can't go against social norms? Okay, brother, what does that even mean?
What? So this video is bad then that I'm making because I'm just reading you what's apparently in the end user license agreement? And this means I'm somehow breaking some agreement that I never made.
What a dystopian agreement.
Myself yet. And me looking at this EULA, I'm kind of second guessing myself now, because why is any of this in your user agreement at all to begin with? This kind of all sounds, I'm going to say it,
they will forbid you to breathe while you play it.
I'm reading here, this game,
or will they? I mean, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I wouldn't put it past Krafton. I have no faith in them. It is underwater, so yes. You know what?
Access to whatever you
play. Great answer.
You can't use a VPN or say anything negative about it at all. Another part claims that any art made of Subnautica 2 by anybody is automatically owned by Krafton themselves, even if they don't pay you for that.
Wait a minute. Wait. Any art of Subnautica is owned by Krafton. That's like, you know, an independent thing. Like, I feel like by legal definition, they're just wrong on that, because I think transformative art, like fan art, is protected by copyright law. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure there's legal precedent already decided on that issue. Like, what are you doing?
What? So why would anyone even make any art then for this game on their socials? That just seems like a terrible shakedown that's waiting to happen. Another part of the EULA claims that if you use the documentation of the game, you forfeit the right to sue Krafton or its employees over anything in the future. You are also unable to get refunds for Subnautica 2 if you accept these terms, apparently, according to what...
Wait, so you can't even get a Steam refund from it? What?
I'm reading anyways. Also, Krafton has the right...
That's not their choice!
...your account if your information on your account is not accurate. What does that mean? Like, if you buy this on Steam and your, I don't know, mailing address is wrong or your name is a nickname, they can now shut down your Steam account.
Yeah, probably.
Correct. Like, that needs further elaboration because that sounds crazy to me. If you have any issues with the EULA, apparently you also cannot...
Krafton is a really strange way to spell the word scam.
Sue any legal demands against Krafton if you have accepted the user agreement. And you also apparently give up the right to a judge or jury to preside over any legal case involving Subnautica 2 if you accept this agreement as well.
Of course.
I can keep going, But again, right here, I'll just put like just a part of this user agreement on screen here. Again, it's very long. It's being shared all over the place. So if this information is incorrect,
Oh my God.
I guess let me know. But again, it's being shared all over Twitter right
You get a license. You don't buy the game.
now. And
There
many
it is.
people are, well, understandably
The artwork line
very
and the
upset by
lawsuit line are common in EULAs, not Krafton exclusive. Just because it exists doesn't make it legally enforceable. You're very right about that. There is a really large, way to talk about whether or not any of these EULAs are actually legally enforceable. They're an agreement that may or may not be legally enforceable, but in order for you to be able to challenge the EULA, that's going to be a large uphill battle that most regular people aren't going to do without a class action. What else can we fit into this agreement? Yes, exactly.
Apparently, other users
They also
through
get
the
access to your
EULA and
firstborn
try to calm
son,
the nerves. One of the only part that
your right
somewhat
arm,
makes
your left
sense
leg. Bethesda said for years any mods created belong to them. Doesn't make it true. I mean, that is true in a sense. But like I said, mostly it's an agreement that largely I would say goes unenforced. The problem is that if they do choose to enforce it, the practice of people adhering legally to an EULA can be used as showing compliance to the EULA, even though you're not actually being compliant. Since there's been no legal cases or any adjudications that have been made up until the point, they can try to argue that it's generally accepted and not something that people would go against, which then would try to make it legal precedence in law.
Is the reason why you cannot publish recordings with
Which is why you should fight back against this stuff at every opportunity.
Description box now to make sure that I don't get, Krafton ninjas flying through my windows at night, is because the game is in early access currently. And because of this early access, the gameplay being shown on screen is not representative of the final product in this video too, I guess. But either way, a lot of this just comes across as scary more than really anything else. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say
because it's a
burn
step in
down
a direction
Krafton or anything like that. But what I will say is, based on what I'm reading here, this all just sounds very concerning, to say the least. Apparently, that remote access feature brought up in the EULA is meant for debugging, anti-cheat, and crash reporting. This is apparently normal practice, according to some people that are defending this agreement.
I could see that being normal practice within the industry. Like I said, there's a lot of other games that have remote access that are like indie titles and that other streamers have played where they've been crashed in their stream, so to speak, by the developer messing with their game. So I can't honestly say that that's too abnormal, although the verbiage of it might be a bit jarring to the lay gamer because they might not necessarily be seeing it in those terms. Sub 2 wasn't the first, exactly. It's not the first, it won't be the last, but hopefully we're stepping towards the direction of making EULAs a little bit more readable and understandable.
Because this is how
at least that's what I hope.
Steam collects crash data and such to improve their games. Either way, how it's worded at least makes it sound way scarier. So maybe they should change that. I'm not going to frame this video as me saying
they can't really change it because it's in legalese.
But I'm also not going to say that their EULA here sounds reasonable either, because it kind of doesn't. I think this whole thing
some
is
parts of
more
it definitely are
scary
not
than anything.
reasonable.
It also shows
like
how
super
for some
unreasonable.
publishers are really just going to be pushing when it comes to their future games and what you can or cannot do with the content, even if you bought the game yourself. I'll circle back to this, but there was even more news too, since as seen here from Aftermath, Subnautica 2 sold over 2 million copies in a single day alone.
Good for them.
Which means the biggest controversy surrounding the game is
bad for everybody because Krafton gets a slice of that pie. Good for them because they sold their game.
Likely going to lead to
I can live with that cognitive dissonance
for the developers and the creators of Subnautica itself. In case you forgot, right? Subnautica's original creators were fired during the second game's development cycle. It was a whole legal battle, right? Where Krafton claimed that the original creators were not meeting their duties that they were being paid to do. But the reason, according to the devs, was that Krafton was trying to get out of a $250 million contract that they would have to pay to Subnautica's founders and the developers if the game was a success. And
which, by the way, I can't believe that they're getting away with this.
Said here in the highlighted part, this was a mess and led to the original creators getting fired, but due to the whole legal proceedings and all that already happened, Krafton was actually...
That CEO still deserves to be completely sacked. I agree. That's another reason why I'm kind of not really on fire for Subnautica 2. I mean, besides the fact that I never played Subnautica, and we're gonna consider all of my history with the game as immaterial. I think that that is a rather large contributor as to why I really kind of don't want to buy it on an ethical level, because I don't agree with the way that the Subnautica 1 devs were treated. I don't like Krafton to begin with. And, you know, I usually like to stand on principle when I can stand on principle. And principally speaking, I don't want to support Krafton more than I want to support the devs. They're not getting away with it. They're required to hire them back, and the court ordered they uphold the bonus. Okay, well, that's good. I'm glad that that's happening. I still don't want to support Krafton. Like, I've been burned too much by them that I really just don't want to be involved in any project they're involved with. Just kind of like how other companies in the video game space, some people have kind of branded them as toxic companies for good or poor reasons. You can talk about that all day. But for this one, I think ubiquitously Krafton's just bad. And as soon as Krafton is no longer part of Subnautica 2, my interest in that game will go so much further up. It's just, I really can't support Krafton.
Actually forced to rehire the creators of Subnautica and extend the bonus deadline for that $200
Read the unhighlighted part of the screen, lol. Okay, yeah.
Subnautica.
That's
and
fine.
Extend the bonus
but
deadline
again,
for that
still about Krafton.
$250 million cash out to September 15th, 2026. Weirdly, too, as seen here where I highlighted again, Krafton is not even listed as the publisher for the game, and Krafton has nothing to say about it, which is very odd.
Currently focused on successfully supporting early access launch of Subnautica 2. We have nothing further to say. Okay.
Everything I've presented in this video is just weird, man, isn't it? Like this whole thing just kind of feels off to me. How is Krafton?
I just want them to get their hands off of it, like 100%.
As the publisher, like what's going on here?
Yeah, that is a good question. I'm kind of wondering about that. Like, what is going on?
The happy ending here, at least so far, is that whole $250 million payout is most definitely.
And if it is true that Krafton is no longer a part of Subnautica 2, then, like I said, I'll stand on principle. My interest in Subnautica 2 has gone so much further in the green.
Going to happen. And it should, because it's not just the creators who benefit from this either. Jason Schreier of Bloomberg reported back in 2025 that a lot here was riding on this payout too. As seen here, the developers of Subnautica 2, who were employees when Krafton acquired Unknown Worlds, that's like a whole thing too, that if you were there when this all went down,
that's right, Unknown Worlds just like Subnautica 1.
Thousands of dollars in compensation. Yeah. And some might even get 7-figure payouts if Subnautica 2 performed well, which again, right, it sold 2 million copies and then some in a single day. So as I write this video, it's a Sunday morning, so here's the Steam charts currently. Subnautica.
Now this is a Steam chart. This is what you want for your Steam charts.
2 was pulling in
just
over
saying
200,000 concurrent players, which is, yeah, very healthy. It hit its peak.
I'm going to bet you Subnautica 1's doing pretty good too.
Good for them. As also seen here, the user rating is really high. And also, look there on the left. Yeah, the publisher is Unknown Worlds themselves, not Krafton. That's really interesting. So Krafton is I'm
actually curious if Krafton is punishing it through Unknown Worlds, because like if they bought Unknown Worlds, then it would be still them publishing it, as even if they're using a different company to publish it. That's why it's like kind of weird, where I'm just like, what, why is Krafton still in this discussion? They still have some type of like investment in this.
Being shafted from this release, which makes you wonder what agreements did they and Unknown Worlds come to behind the scenes prior to this release then. Either way, based on what's we're seeing, this is another reason why something like a Stop Killing Games is needed. Because whether Subnautica 2 is good or not, the reality is still the same. You're just not an owner of the game if you buy it. You're just,
I actually want to know, I hope that we can get some like full disclosure clauses or some type of full disclosure where they have to disclose, even if it's published by a certain company, who actually owns that company and who actually fronted the publishing or required the publishing to be done through a different type of company. Unknown Worlds is their studio that Krafton bought. It's the parent company. That's what I'm saying. So it's just like they're still going to be benefiting from it if they're the parent company. Strings are still on a puppet. Now, that's kind of where I'm going with it, where it's just like, I really, really, really want them just to cut loose Unknown Worlds. If there is any tangential like link to Krafton, I just can't do it. Unknown Worlds is both the dev and the right, but the people who own the publisher are Krafton. So really, it's Krafton publishing them just through Unknown Worlds.
end user license agreement clearly states that you can have access to said game revoked at any moment. Like, that's a scary thing to normalize, because that's just not okay. I know it's not really about any one game, really. It's just that seeing this happen time and time again,
It's
all
the same
time,
reason
really
why
makes
I
me
don't
worried
like
about the future of ownership as a
Riot,
whole. Now, of course,
or at least the direction that
every
Riot went
publisher has
with
legal
them
agreements to some
being
degree when you
technically
play.
owned
No,
in
that's
part by
not exactly
Tencent.
new. But what's changed
Yeah,
is
it's
the
not
public
Tencent
awareness
publishing them,
around
but you
what
can
these
see
sorts of things
Tencent's
actually
actions in the
represent,
game.
and I'll just say it how it is. It's all designed around controlled access, because that is what it is. So it's no surprise why people are reading the fine print here, and you're seeing the sort of backlash online that you are, because people are kind of realizing and asking a very uncomfortable question, which is, what exactly are we buying anymore when we buy these games?
You didn't buy
And
anything.
that's a
You
good
just
question
gave
to
them
ask,
money.
by the way, because it stands right now, when you buy a modern game, you do not own the software. Your access can change whenever whoever is selling
You don't own
it to
any
you
of
wants
it.
to change that too. The
Like, none of
services,
it.
those can be terminated. I mean, even online functionality can just disappear overnight, and your purchase overall is, well, conditional at best.
I mean,
I'm
like,
not saying again that people should boycott.
That's what happened with our favorite parable, the parable of Concord. You don't own Concord. You don't have a physical disc for it. They can just take it away at any point in time. Now, you can argue whether or not it deserved to be taken away. I would still make the argument, even with that game, that you should still be able to play it if you bought it.
Crafting or anything, but I do think we need to raise awareness and understand that
I don't know who would,
this is not
but you should be able to.
I don't think the Subnautica 2 developers over at Unknown Worlds should have to suffer for this, because again, they clearly did not make any of these decisions. The game is selling because of the love and passion of the Unknown Worlds devs, right? And I truly do hope the game.
The problem
does
is
sell
Unknown
well.
Worlds
But
may
really,
not be
the only
able to get
reason, because I love
get
it,
out of it now, and that they're now that they're a parent company. What are they supposed to do? Leave the passion project so that that so many people love? Like, I get what you're trying to say here. I totally understand it, and it's not fair that they're bought by Krafton. It isn't. Like, I get it. My problem is I cannot ethically support any company that is owned in part or in full by Krafton. Like, I just can't. I don't like that company. I hate what they do, and I hate them as an entity. And yeah, it might be unfair because they probably have a lot of passion in their work, and I feel bad for them. I just, they made a bad business decision at the time that maybe seemed like a good business decision. And it is what it is at the end of the day. Personally, if it were me, I would have just left. I'd have been like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing Krafton. But I'm not in their situation. I'm not going to tell them what to do. I can only respond to what choices that they've made. And unfortunately, my dislike for Krafton is a lot more potent in my life than my respect and enjoyment of a passionate studio making their own passionate game.
Developers to get their due, because they deserve it. They deserve that money. They made the game in the first place. I don't think that Krafton is inherently evil. Well, hopefully not. I mean, they just need to understand that
I
what
think
they're
they
proposing is, a step too far. Either way, though, this is not
I hate those guys.
unique to Subnautica, and I know that. The entire discourse surrounding, digital games or even
I've been
physical
burned
game
too many
ownership
times
is
by
kind of one
them.
of the biggest lies in modern games right now overall. Like, can we agree on that one? Because it does all come down with an invisible trade-off, right? Ownership is just becoming access, and access is just being controlled by corporations. That's a very uncomfortable reality, guys. Effectively,
I actually am very frightened for where we're going to be going with that. I do not want a corporation to be able to own the product still after I've purchased it, because that creates a lot of different problems down the line. Especially, we've been seeing it kind of with payment processors. I think this is kind of a symptom of it, where payment processors have been de facto being able to censor what people purchase with their own money and the products that they're allowed to purchase with their own money. And I think that is indicative of the direction that we're trending towards. I really, really, really am afraid that eventually payment processors will be able to say, we don't like the fact that you purchased that, so we're going to debank you. Or we don't like the fact that people have been purchasing this, so we're going to stop processing payments for whatever entity is selling this product. Of course, I'm not advocating for the sale of illegal products. I'm advocating for, if people buy a legal product, the payment processor shouldn't have a say in whether or not they should buy it. It should just be, it's a legal product, process the payment. Who cares if you morally like it or not?
we're losing control because of convenience. This is exactly why
Mhm.
something like a Stop Killing Games matters. Because, well, they're combating
That's
this
true. We
very
are also
idea.
losing a
Because
lot of this
games
because of
disappearing, that's
convenience.
a huge problem. No matter like
Like,
what.
it is super convenient that we can just buy a game on Steam and play it. I love that. What I hate is I have to give up my ability to keep my products for the sake of
What
convenience.
platform you're on, by the way. A few days ago, SKG, as seen here, released a video surrounding their current ongoing battle with the Californian side of digital game ownership, which will be bad news for all American users if this law does
No.
not go through.
Oh, okay. I thought
I'll
you
leave
said
a
that
link
we
in
were
the
going to
description
have
box
bad
to
news.
that video if you want to watch it yourselves, but this is all a part of the Protect Our Games Act, as seen here. Which
Again,
Chris Ward,
California
who's a
has the
representative
chance
for
to have a
SKG,
massive
is working
W.
in tandem to ensure that the draconian laws of games
Massive
ownership
fucking
do not
W.
in fact ruin more in the
They
future.
need it.
It would
They've
take
been farming
way
L's for the
too
longest
long to go
time.
through the entire document here, but for like we would be here for like an hour or so. So basically, the idea here is that Chris Ward, Ross Scott as well, who's the face of SKG, and more, are all kind of working together to ensure that this law becomes real, because it would be a huge blow to what companies like a Krafton are trying to do with Subnautica and its access. Unfortunately, for the Protect Our Games Act, it would only apply in theory to games purchased in January 2027 onward, as you can see there. Laws, of course, take a bit to get put in place, obviously, but
They
the
do.
idea is that future games would have to respect you and allow the versions of these games to.
I actually hope that this also gets applied retroactively. Like, I know that that might be a hard legal selling point, but I do hope that retroactively we can apply it to games in the past as well. Because there's some games that just are like no longer playable that I'd like to be able to be handed over to the community in order for community curation.
To operate and exist, even when official support ends in places like North America, which obviously there's a lot of money and users there for sure. Digital Trends, for example, as seen here, released an article surrounding this very same story with updates. Currently, the Protect Our Games Act is gaining momentum, and as the SKG video I have in the description box below also says at one point,
I'm sure a lot of people, even non-gamers, can agree with it.
Has any moral ground to stand on in order to deny the passing of this law.
Because like the problem is like there's a lot of externalities that kind of get applied to the argumentation when you're looking at it like as a holistic law, right? So it's just like if you don't allow this to become legal precedent, or rather you don't allow this to become a law, this opens up litigation for other products and services and other industries to fall under these same practices. It almost seems like you could try to make the argument that by necessity this has to pass as a law, but I don't know if that's like, I don't know if you can really do that. It'd be hard to make that argument, but also once you make the argument, it'd be solid. Retroactivity is hard to pull off in law in general. Yeah, it is. That's why I said it's going to be like one of those things where it's like, I'd like to see it. That's a hope, not a requirement.
Would protect you from things like what Subnautica's end user like license agreement says, of course.
I'm only going to be here briefly to provide some context, and then Ross will be back again. Stop Killing Games was
Hell yeah,
launched
brother.
shortly before Christmas last year when I flew over to meet with Jonah Goldman, who is now leading the US section of Stop Killing Games. Around the same time, work began on the California bill, the POG Act. SKG has been directly involved in that effort, working with
Is it called the
Assembly
POG
Member Chris
Act?
Ward's office in the California State Assembly.
Okay.
The paper you're about to see was not made public by the ESA outside of the California State Assembly. And quite frankly, we believe that that is because they know how weak their arguments are.
Oh,
they
good.
know gamers are going to call them out for repeating the same tired talking points about keeping servers online forever. At the same time, they reached out to.
They're really making a mistake. They're making a mistake trying to challenge the collective of gamers, mostly because a lot of them come, like, there's so many different walks of life that gamers come from. There's going to be at least a few in there that know exactly how to completely dismantle it. I cannot wait for this. I hope there's a public hearing on this. I really hope that we get to see like a public hearing. Like, I hope they don't keep it behind closed doors because it's going to be really funny. Like, funny in the like, oh no type of way. Like, you're getting insider insight into the way that companies are thinking, but funny nonetheless.
ABC News to spread random out of context lines about how expensive this is all supposedly going to be. We believe the public has the right to see this. This is a public consultation, so the public should be part of it and not just
They should be.
assembly members and
because
the
it's
One of the
law
groups,
that's affecting the
however,
public.
that has like opposed this bill or anything like it for something like 2 years now is the ESA, or Entertainment Software
Wow,
Association.
who would have
So as
thought?
it states here in the highlighted section of the ESA's rebuttal towards all of this, they believe that AB 1921, which is what the Protect Our Games Act's other name is, by the way, is flawed.
I cannot wait for them to try to prove this. That AB 1921 is fundamentally flawed, a bill based on false premises that consumer-owned digital games with permanent access. That is not how software works. Games are licensed. See, they're already trying to make the argument here that because it's already kind of the way that people interact with it, that is how de facto it should work. Which, if anybody tries to make that argument, you should be able to legally go up to them and smack them. Not sold as unrestricted property. California already recognizes digital games as a license, because they kind of have to. Which ensure that customers understand that they are acquiring a licensed digital content. Okay, yeah, no, we want to change that. Expensive to show is code for we don't want the public to be aware of it. Exactly.
They think the entire point of this law goes against what corporations want, as the ESA says here, which I highlighted. AB 1921 is seeking to create a new consumer right to digital games by taking away rights from creators. The bill forces
taking away rights from creators. Nuh-uh, you're taking away rights from publishers. That's the issue. They're conflating the word publisher with creator because they have a hand in the creation process. Not technically wrong, not legally wrong, but ethically and morally wrong.
Creators to design, reproduce, modify, or distribute their games on state-mandated terms rather
you're
than
lying
their
to
own
me.
terms in violation of the Copyright Act. AB 1921 is not a consumer protection bill. It is an unworkable mandate with serious unintended consequences.
Okay, prove
will
it.
limit how developers design modern interactive experiences and reduce access to online features players
Okay, fucking prove it.
expect. AB 1921 will result in
No,
fewer
they can get
games,
away with this
higher
because they can get away with it because AAA studios are both. You're correct about that. However, we also know that AAA games can be produced and made by two different companies. Just like how From Software creates their games, they don't publish it. They get published by, I think, like Sony Interactive for Bloodborne, Atlas for Demon's Souls, and a bunch of other publisher distributions. So yes, they can be, but they also publish other games as well. It's not taking any rights. It's as adding responsibilities, which they would like to avoid. Yeah, you're right. So it's enumerating rights that we already have that are kind of like hand waved over, and it is putting upon or putting into awareness the rights that are now being enumerated that have been forfeited, whether by pressure or by pseudo legality regulation, that are no longer being recognized. So they're just reasserting the right.
Cost and less innovation. Again, this means that the ESA
Which is important.
believes that what Subnautica 2 is doing currently, by being able to revoke access whenever they please apparently and then some, is actually favorable than to giving the people who buy games, more options, because that will just result in less innovation, fewer games, and higher costs, apparently. Anything but you pretty much owning things is the goal here pretty much, and whatever needs to be said to keep that mandate going, that's going to be upheld. Either way, people have spent money, right, on their libraries. I know I have, and it's crazy that the better thing to do is just, nope, this doesn't exist anymore.
You're calling it
Just
now?
get
They're
lost.
going to
Like, that's
claim
what they
this
want.
is
No wonder
infringing on
you
the
have
individual
backlash that
liberties,
you got
particularly the right of copyright to dedicate how their IP is handled. I would love to see them argue that in court, because I believe that there are a lot of counter arguments that any reasonable human being would look at and be like, okay, shut the fuck up. We're gonna put you in the shut up box now.
Like Subnautica, right? It's MMOs too. Like, there's literal graveyards full of games that people spend money on that they just
can no longer play
anymore. Even single player titles, they get delisted too. For example, Lego 2K Drive, as you can see here, that game is going to be delisted very, very soon. The multiplayer options will cease, and if you don't own it already, it's gone for good. A great recent example of this very thing happening in real time. What makes the whole Subnautica 2 discussion so important within this is that it's a game where players are still, emotionally associating with the immersion when they're playing it, right? Like Subnautica, that game represents exploration.
I mean, it's also like the whole end user agreement that is now enumerating more and becoming more specific in which rights they're taking away from you, it's starting, like, I think it just is the catalyst where everybody is now kind of aware, like we're at a confluence point, right? Everybody's aware that EULAs and publishers like this are predatory, and really it was just up to the next big phenomenal game that's going to be released that has an EULA that's not really consumer friendly. It just so happened that they existed in the confluence space of where those two like temporal periods meet. So I think it's the perfect point to start up open up a discussion point, especially in the context of everything that's happening. The next logical step is from that is you don't own your car. It's retained. Well, you want to know something funny? There's a lot of features on cars now that are software features that have that type of mentality behind it. There are some things, like I feel like there was like a subscription model for seat warmers or something like that. I don't know if that's still in cars anymore, but that existed at one point in time.
Isolation.
That's ridiculous.
And because of that, people are emotionally invested in these worlds. Like, how can you blame them? Like, that's why it just sold 2 million copies in a day already. That's crazy. But when these legal language nonsense stuff reminds players that even these experiences ultimately like exist under, I guess, temporary licensing structures because they do well, then the illusion kind of breaks, doesn't it? That's why you have the reaction that's so intense with this whole end user license
it's like
agreement
nobody
thing.
wants to have to deal with
the gaming
this.
industry increasingly prefers these
And
kind
unfortunately,
of ecosystems, right,
the
that are
gaming
built around
industry is kind of
controlled
like
access.
upstream
Because
of
controlled
regular
access
industry.
will then also create dependency on them too. And dependency, that's just going to lead to reoccurring revenue via stuff like subscription models. Digital only.
Because like gaming is like kind of in this weird industry space, in my opinion, where a lot of the different like trends in industry in general kind of comes from downstream of gaming because of how culturally prevalent gaming is. So if you really, and like how much of a confluence of other industries come into, or at least traditional industries and thought processes come into selling a game, playing a game, and participating in the gaming space, just by in part of it, like the nature of it being what it is. And when you look at some of the things that they're able to get away with in gaming industries, at least like in the way that they sell it and people participate with it, you can start to see a leak over effect of that coming to other industries. Of course, we borrow from our gaming industry borrows from other industries as well, but I see a lot coming from gaming and going into other industries, because it's kind of a testing box to see at what point somebody won't buy your product. At least that's what it seems to me from my perspective. I mean, I could be completely wrong. It could be coming from a different direction, but to me, it seems like it comes one-sidedly from the gaming industry, or more one-sidedly from the gaming industry into mainstream industry. And it's really funny because one of these days they're going to finally find the limit where people are just no longer going to be okay with it. And I think we're starting to get
libraries, like you name it, because the less ownership that you have in theory, well, that just leads to more leverage that the corporations then gain. And that's kind of where this is all going. The entire industry and what they're making at this point is becoming temporary, right? It's your games, it's the DLC, it's the storefronts, like you name it. It's all being turned off and on by a simple switch, and you really can't do nothing about it currently. So the future in the end here is where your library of games only exists through permissions, and your games will require perpetual authentication. Preservation.
God,
also
I do not
just
want to live in that
becomes
reality.
impossible unless it's on GOG, and now the corporations.
And you want to know what? That'll be the day that you see nothing but pirates.
Just have full access. That's kind of the nightmare scenario that many see that is now approaching, and honestly, they're not crazy for worrying about it. SKG should be about you owning things and your rights. The idea that art and entertainment shouldn't just evaporate immediately out of nowhere. So if buying no longer means owning anything, well then something is deeply broken with this system then, isn't it? The controversy surrounding Subnautica 2, it is bigger than one end user license agreement, okay? It exposes the future that the whole gaming industry is,
like I said, it's a catalyst to have this discussion.
People even realizing it sometimes. A future where your games are just becoming services. Gaming became one of the most powerful entertainment mediums in history because players formed real connections with these worlds. I know I have. Mass Effect, Final Fantasy, Dark Souls, Core in the House for Nintendo DS.
Best anime.
name it. But those connections require permanent access, if you ask me. And if the industry keeps treating games like temporary rentals, instead of these lasting works that people can truly own, well, players are eventually going to stop trusting the entire system altogether. And like, why
What do you mean by stop trusting? They already have stopped trusting.
why wouldn't they? Interestingly,
No
you
future
also
tense
had the
needed.
story from PC Gamer where they detailed how nuclear bad the entire thing went down when it came to Subnautica 2's parent company Krafton and their CEO, who was allegedly using ChatGPT to figure out how to get out of
Oh
Deep
my God,
Unknown
he
Worlds,
did,
their
didn't they?
$250
Didn't he?
million payout
I
bonus.
forgot about
the entire
that.
thing just feels like a mess that could have been rightfully avoided, since
Bro.
Krafton essentially
He's
threw
really trying to
Unknown
cheat the
Worlds'
system.
creators under the bus, only for them to revert back to the exact same spot they were in to begin with before all of this went down anyways. But
Oh my
now the
God.
creators likely don't trust them, and who can blame them? And the developers are probably going to be side-eyeing them constantly too, and I mean that payout is likely going to be paid out one way or another. Again, they have until September 15th, 2026 to hit that goal. With 2 million copies and then some already sold, they're practically there like months in advance.
I
And
did
I'm
say
not
he needed to be
surprised, since
fired.
Subnautica
I
2
mean, you
was
did
the
say that he
most
needed to be
wishlisted
fired.
game on Steam prior to release.
But I think everybody could have
Apparently, the
agreed
game
with
had
that with the
something like almost 1
directionality
million
of his
active
policies
users
anyway,
across
without
all
with
platforms recently
even
too,
beyond
which
using
makes you believe
ChatGPT.
that, oh yeah, they're going to get their
Well, that's
payout
just
and
the
then
icing
some.
on the
Good for
shit
them.
cake,
I
so
just
to
kind of
speak.
wonder, once this is all said and done, what the professional relationship will look like for Krafton going forward with Unknown Worlds.
God
Will
willing,
everybody
they'll
just
be
leave once they get
ousted
their
from the
payouts and then
industry.
leave Subnautica gutted? I mean, the developers could just leave with the creators once their contracts expire. They could just make another studio, and then they could just make Subnautica 3, even if it's not called that, obviously. I mean, we've seen this happen
That's what I
before,
would
and
do.
I mean,
Fuck
if they
'em.
were willing to throw these people under the bus the way that they did, who's to say it won't happen again in
Subnautica
the
2
future,
subtitle
right?
some
Either way,
other
it's
adventure.
a complicated position, but do I support
Technically a
Subnautica 2
different
or
game.
not? It's kind of hard to say.
Subnautica
Do you
2,
support
a
it
different
even?
story.
But either way, that whole EULA is kind of crazy draconic. No two ways about it, honestly. And the backlash that Krafton is receiving is kind of warranted because it's crossing a line that honestly shouldn't be crossed in the first place. Again, I don't hate Krafton, but they need to meet people
I do.
halfway.
I'll say
here.
it. I'll say it with a
Otherwise,
full
this is just
chest. I
gonna
hate
keep getting
Krafton.
worse. But what do you think? Let me know. Thanks for being here. Subscribe if you'd like to, and see you guys next time.
We'll see you next time, Endymion. It's nice to see you. Yeah, I definitely think that. God, I can't believe that Krafton's still a company. I think that this exists at like kind of a confluence point between like real world events that have been happening versus like movement events in the gaming industry as a whole. And it just became a catalyst by virtue of the fact that it's just at that point in time. But I think it's good because I really want more discussions like this to be opened up so that people really do see like, hey, we're actually kind of at a little bit of a crisis point, at least in terms of like consumer protections and consumer rights. So hopefully we can continue to talk about that in a more healthy way, and we start kicking these people out of business that want to take away your right to own things, take away your right to everything else. Yeah, there might be some like discussion points in between there, but really at the end of the day, we really need to be rejecting this wholesale. At least that's like my opinion. I haven't heard a good argument as to why it's not okay for me to own my own software. All right.
Bungie's just
Let's
lost
talk.
three-quarters.
Yeah, hang on, Bellular. We are going to talk now about Bungie's relationship to Marathon and Sony. Because if you haven't guessed already, Marathon ain't doing so hot. Doing pretty bad. So, let's see where we're at on this one.
Bungie's just lost $750 million in value, at least
Yes.
as far as PlayStation's bookkeeping is.
They spent a lot of money on acquiring Bungie. Sony did, rather. They spent a lot of money putting into making sure that Bungie's able to, like, make games. They have not made that money back.
Concerned, and this is just within a single year.
Yeah.
It's pretty brutal, and it's a number that's buried in their latest
It's pretty
earnings
brutal. It
report.
is. That's an
Honestly,
understatement.
It's big. It's actually big enough to drag down PlayStation's entire financial year.
Oh,
and
no.
on face value, you could think,
Their entire financial year. Do you know how much money you got to lose to do that?
well, that's obvious. Marathon bombed.
No
compared to
way.
what it
How
could be.
come? How
And
could it?
Marathon's
Yeah.
absolutely underperformed. But this write-down is not really about Marathon.
What is it? We got the trilogy Concordia, right? Remember, it's going to take a while for this one to completely die, but It seems like it's happening.
Actually about is PlayStation finally admitting what their accountants have probably been quietly building toward for 4 years, and what I'm fairly sure all of us as consumers have actually felt about the state of the company. There's a lot to break down today, and it's going to be fun.
All right.
PlayStation's final financial report of the year was actually a pretty
disastrous.
good one overall. Their sales were, quote, essentially flat across the year. Hardware was down 46%, and they didn't have many first-party
Do you
titles,
think this is a
which
trilogy, or
will
is
make
it
you
more
think
of an
it would be awful
Exodia
year.
situation?
The actual money they made.
You know what? I think you might be right. I think it might be a bit of an Exodia situation in the future. Right now, trilogy makes sense because everybody can gravitate the rules of 3. It makes sense psychologically. But you're probably more correct in it's going to be all pieces are going to come together to be the forbidden one to obliterate the industry.
It was pretty good. There's a 45% increase in operating income for the year. That would suggest that all the cost cutting is kind of paying off. Or at least it would have been a 45% increase year over year, because in reality, it was only a 12% increase. Now that
Right. Okay. So let's see if I'm not a finance guy. Let's see if I can read this. All right. So increased 44% a year. Okay. I can't read this. I'm too stupid.
Seem a bit weird. How is it that it's 45%, but actually
that
it's
graph
really
says
12%?
things.
Well, the reason why is this. Bungie.
Please explain it to me.
They admitted that Bungie's portfolio, quote, didn't reach our expectations. You know,
Translations. They made us lose a lot of money.
that's putting it mildly. Now, they said they will keep supporting Marathon, but Bungie as a whole is obviously taking a hit here.
They're going to keep supporting Marathon like they kept supporting Concord.
And apparently they are revising the business plan, which, to be honest, should feel like a bit of a threat if you're a person at Bungie. And as a part of all of this, they're impairing...
Man, I cannot believe how far Bungie has fallen. They went from making bangers, which, by the way, I don't like Halo, but they went from making bangers like Halo to where they're at now. Oh, man.
Bungie as an asset. That's the thing that's led to all the headlines. But what does it actually mean?
I know, I'm strange. I don't like Halo. Sue me.
Here's how this stuff works. Whenever a company prepares their accounts, they have to take stock of all their assets and their liabilities. Now, if they realize that an asset's worth is actually less than it used to be, then what they have to do is write that down. And that's what we call an impairment. And if they don't do that, then, well, auditors will do it for them later. It's the kind of thing that is fiddly work, and sometimes it's more about correcting mistakes from previous years. Now, this year, for an example, PlayStation lost 18.3 billion yen adjusting development costs for games that they'd already booked into accounts, but basically miscalculated the costs of.
I see. So what happened is they predicted an amount of money that it was going to make and put that into the book, and this is them retroactively correcting it.
By comparison,
Got it.
PlayStation recorded a 120.1 billion yen write-down for Bungie.
That's a lot of money,
alone.
by the way.
That's 31.5 billion in Q2, 88.6 billion in Q4. And man, when we're talking about Japanese yen, the numbers really do get big. But all in, Bungie has lost 765 million USD in value on PlayStation's books.
Because they overvalued it. That makes sense. So they probably thought that they were going to make at least half that, I would say half that value back, which would make sense in my mind, because they were probably going to take a loss on it anyway. They were probably banking on it being continually generative of money over years instead of over a singular year, I would think. So that's funny.
And around
that's really funny.
million of that is in Q4. Now,
Get
thinking
fucked,
about that,
Sony.
the obvious read here is that Marathon bombed. And the PlayStation basically
Dude, it
just
didn't
wrote off
bomb.
the entire
It,
development cost of the game and any potential value that they thought they could have had.
What's the
And
next step up what's the next step up from bombed? They did that.
that is absolutely part of it. But
like
when
10
you
times
look
more
at the
steps
4
than
years
that.
Since PlayStation bought Bungie, it is absurdly clear that this has been a long time coming. I gotta warn you, if we did some sort of Bungie Doomer drinking game, then I think this segment of the video would
I'd be dead.
literally kill you.
Yep.
Let's do it anyway. I'll start with the purchase of Bungie.
Wait. Drinking game. Should I go downstairs? I have a bottle of vodka downstairs. Do vodka shots.
In January 2022, PlayStation
I'll be shit-faced by like 0.3.
They were paying for a list of assets and the potential.
It was even more like
down the line.
it was more like an animal that got hit then didn't die immediately. That's a vivid image. Oof.
Means Bungie Studio,
You're right.
their offices,
You're right,
their
though.
games, development capacity. Destiny 2, the promise of several other titles as well, including Marathon. But PlayStation
Exactly.
was also betting on an intangible value. You see, there was the $1.2 billion that they earmarked for performance bonuses in order to keep on staff.
Oh,
this was all
Jesus.
done because there was live service expertise within Bungie that PlayStation wanted to absorb. Back then, Destiny was a hell of a lot stronger, and Bungie seemed like the experts in live service. Then, nearly 2 years after that, PlayStation
If you were,
took a company...
the problem is like if you were paying any amount of attention to what was happening with like Destiny and Destiny 2, especially, so like, first of all, there was a controversy of Destiny 1, which, as much as people loathe to admit it, turned a lot of people away from Destiny 1. I didn't play Destiny 1 because of that. I don't really remember what the controversy was, but I didn't play it because I felt that I wasn't valued as a player of Destiny 1. I felt like I was being sold a lie, because if I recall correctly, it's because they removed a bunch of their content and we're just going to sell it as repackaged content later. So I was like, yeah, fuck that. I'm not playing that game. Then Destiny 2 came out, and they saw great sales, but then they started down the track of removing content from the game as soon as it became out of date and out of season. And not a lot of people really liked that either. I think they undersold the amount of people who reacted poorly to that. And now we've come to the point in today where people don't really trust Bungie as a brand anymore, but nobody's willing to say that out loud. Because, you know, it's Bungie. You can't attack the golden goose, so to speak, or the sacred cow, I guess. Because that's kind of how they were, a little bit, that's how they were treated. I'm not afraid to say it. Bungie fucking sucks. Now, it was good. It's not good anymore. Hasn't been for a long time.
And they mandated cuts. So in October 2023, 100 staff at Bungie were laid off, and then studios like Media Molecule and Naughty Dog also got hit. But according to IGN, CEO Pete Parsons specifically tied Bungie's layoffs to Destiny 2's underperformance.
Imagine.
Now, where that gets interesting is Bloomberg got hold of data showing that revenues had missed their target by 45% after the
Somebody made an oopsie poopsie in their projections.
Lightfall expansion. Now, the risk of doing some negative parallelism, 45% off target for a live service expansion isn't just like a little normal miss.
No,
it's basically the player base having a referendum on, can you guys do this well? And loads of those.
It's like if you're trying to shoot at a target and instead of shooting at the target, you turned around and shot the RSO.
Players saying no and voting with their wallet.
That's how off target that was.
Marathon both got delayed. Final shape to June 24, Marathon to originally 2025. That, of course, all means more costs and no big chunks of incoming revenue anytime soon. All that meant that Bungie started to look a lot less valuable. They lost experience, they lost a hell of a lot of potential, and from that point, they wouldn't even make it 12 months before more cuts happened. You see, in July 24, despite the final shape being a commercial
you are not wrong.
critical success, it obviously wasn't enough, because another 220 staff were laid off, which was 17% of the company.
Good
At the time,
lord.
Bloomberg put the remaining headcount at around 850 people. We then found out another project was killed. It was a Destiny spin-off called Payback. Now, the killing of that led to several veteran devs leaving, and then the rest of that team was moved on to Marathon.
I don't even know if this would be any good either. A lot of people have been upset that this was canceled because it was supposed to be like more of a traditional like single player experience from what I've heard. I could be very wrong about that, but that's what I'm remembering. And a lot of people were upset that didn't release. And you know, and obviously they're saying, well, it would have been so good, it would have been X, Y. Like, I don't know if we have enough information to be able to determine how good or how bad it would have been, but the fact that they are unable to put out like a single player game within the Destiny universe is very telling. Instead of putting money into a counting machine, they put it into a shredder. Yeah, they kind of did. And then they sat there wondering why, like, oh, where did all our money go?
It's only half the story, because by this point, Bungie were already being carved up into pieces. You see, another 155 staff, 12% of the company, were taken out of Bungie and they were brought in-house at PlayStation. Now, these people were Bungie Creative Studios. Essentially, they'd be the people providing
oh no, where did all the money go?
Support to PlayStation. That, of course, was supposed to help PlayStation.
And you know what? They have the gall to blame their player base too, I bet.
do all their big live service games. Like the big Last of Us live service, as much as I don't like
How
live
could the
services,
players do
man,
this to
The Last
us?
of Us Part 2's combat model is so goddamn fun on the roguelite mode that they built. The Last of Us Part 1's whole multiplayer suite was super fun. It does sting that there's probably a dope project there, but one that ultimately
Maybe.
got killed.
I can't
Now,
speak to this. I don't
team
know
from
much about it.
Bungie wasn't just being used for a wee bit of help in other games. They were also the team behind a MOBA, which was called Project
Oh,
Thingiverse.
no.
They would eventually become Team
Oh,
LFG,
no.
which would be an internal PlayStation.
Guys, they're developing a MOBA. Or we're developing a MOBA. Oh, no.
Studio. What was supposed to be Bungie advising PlayStation to do live service better basically became Bungie people staffing a PlayStation studio. And with that, Bungie was now down to
Oh,
two
no, I
projects.
have
They were down
tripped
a
and my
load more
bank card
staff,
landed in
and
the
their
shredder
biggest
and my
intangible
hand
thing,
landed on
that
the
live
bottom.
service advice
On the
basically just
button,
walked
yeah.
out the door. But sadly for Bungie, that's not the end of the torment, because
Holy fuck,
December
dude.
2024 brings another wave of just horrible shit. Many C-suite and creative leads leave the company at this time. High-level, kind of long-term staff end up cashing out their performance and retention
I think
bonuses,
cashing out is the
or
right
kinda
word
just
for
get
it.
forced out. What does that mean? Well,
That's
it means
basically
that
what it
more
seemed to be for a
experience
while. They're just
leaves
cashing
the
out on the
company.
brand
But then
recognition of Bungie.
It gets worse, because 2025 happens. In April, we get the full marathon reveal. It has a muted reception.
And it released to an overwhelming.
The plagiarism controversy hits, and then the September
yeah.
release date gets delayed indefinitely. In the meantime, there was Destiny, but it was very much not making up the difference.
It's
In
true.
July, we had Destiny Edge of
Destiny
Fate
was
launch.
not-
It's fine, I guess. And what we
Destiny
see in
was
it
not
is
performing
Bungie
at this time
shifting its
either.
content strategy from annual expansions to being twice yearly. It's a bit of a strange plan, and players don't like it. It leads
Yeah, I
to
wonder
Destiny
why.
having its lowest player count ever, especially after
Oh, jeez. Oh, this is a bad graph. Like right here at 24, great. You're doing great in 2024. Then for an entire year, almost, they couldn't get above 100,000 players. Oh, no. Oh, no. And that's not even, that's one expansion. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 individual looks like expansions.
technical issues. Then, in August 2025, as the husk of Bungie basically contracts around him, CEO Pete Parsons leaves. With a
Yeah,
lovely golden
I-
parachute
he sees
absolutely lined
the
with
ship is
performance
sinking.
bonuses
Time
and
to
various
leave,
different things
boys.
that all stem from that sale to PlayStation.
Like,
And with
oh,
that, Bungie's set to
no.
be integrated further within PlayStation Studios, and we know that because Bungie didn't get a new CEO. Their
You
new
know-
CEO is basically
We haven't checked on it recently. Maybe we should. Marathon theme DB. All right, buddy. How are we doing? 8,000 players with an 12,000 player peak. That's a bad graph. That's a bad
By
graph.
November,
At least they're
you
holding
can
steady at
basically see
10,000
that
though.
PlayStation are losing patience. We have all the cuts, all the projects taken away, and then we see PlayStation reviewing what Bungie is actually worth.
And
That
Sony
leads to
be
the
like,
first
"Oops, I did it
impairment being
again. I messed up
recorded
a lot.
of
Hope gamers will
31.5
cover
billion
this."
yen, around 200 million US.
Well, Mark, I hate to say it. I don't think gamers are going to cover it. I think they gravely
Pretty
overestimated
bad
that.
impairment, but obviously
Correction,
what we're
how
talking
could the
about today
gamers
is
have
worse.
done this?
Now, that is the period
Exactly.
when Marathon was supposed to have launched. So part of this is them just factoring in the lost
How could they
revenue.
have
As
made
the
my
year would
game so
continue,
bad
it
that
wouldn't
people don't
get
want to
better,
play it?
especially for Destiny. Because in December, we
Didn't
get
they do like
the
a bunch of
Star Wars
crossovers?
themed
There it is, yeah.
renegades.
They
It
did
led
the
to the
fucking
lowest
Star
player
Wars-
counts that
Star
Destiny's
Wars.
ever had,
So,
which of course
I have a friend who like soy pogged out over this so hard. I was just like, dude, it's not that good.
is following up what happened just a few months before.
I feel bad.
Unfortunately for
I feel so
Destiny
bad
players,
for
the
them
big Q1
because they don't
update
like
that
pay
could have
attention to
helped
these
things
types of
out was
things,
delayed to
and then they
June
wonder why it's so
2026.
bad
Of
for
course,
them.
that's because
I'm like, I
all
tried to
hands
warn
lined
ya.
up for Marathon's launch, and it wasn't a great launch. Internal sources speaking to Paul Tassi suggested 1.2 million sales within the first few weeks, mostly taking place in Steam. I mean, it's 55 million, but The budget's at least 200 million from what we currently understand. That's pretty rough, and it brings
200 million with a profit, or not a profit, with a, so they sold 55 million for a $200 million game. So 1.45, right? Yeah, $1.45 million. Sorry, $145 million is gone. Okay. I'd be sitting there going like, where's the money, Lebowski?
to today. And the big question,
I'd be
is
like,
Marathon the straw
dude,
that's
give me
finally
the money.
broken the camel's back?
Give me
There
the
are
money.
people who really love the game. I think Marathon is in so many ways a brilliant game. There's so many parts of it I think are really cool. The
I
thing
don't know,
is,
I can't
it's
agree
a
with
niche
that.
game. I think it was never going to give PlayStation.
I think it
the
looks
numbers
like
that they
absolute
wanted.
poopy
So
dog
with all that
water.
said, let's talk about PlayStation finally being forced to acknowledge reality. If you've been tracking the numbers in this video, you might be confused because Marathon's 200 plus million development cost doesn't really explain a $560 million write-down this quarter. It's undoubtedly part of their rationale, but it's not the only thing. There's Destiny's lack of success that has almost certainly not helped, but there is also a wider problem here. We can infer that Bungie in 2022 was worth 2.5 billion and the staff were worth 1.2 billion. We basically know that because the 1.2 billion was
Jesus
earmarked
Christ,
for
dude.
staff retention bonuses and that kind of thing. But obviously that reflects
1.5 to 2.5 billion.
Bungie's potential.
That
when
amount
it
of
was
money
sold
just
to
boggles the
PlayStation
mind,
by
dude.
Bungie's own leadership. Now, I want you to think about how much of that was intangible, how much was tied up in PlayStation's live service ambitions.
Oh,
You
probably
could
a lot.
almost say that PlayStation had a
Oh,
whole
yeah.
bunch of biases in their decision making because they wanted live service, and that the people at Bungie, the leadership, played into those biases. Obviously, that was financially fantastic for the people at Bungie who ended up.
Remember,
getting
the
very
more
healthy
losses
paychecks
they
out of
report,
that.
the
Not
better
great
they
for
can do on their
PlayStation, who feel like
taxes.
they've been a bit fleeced. But in a way, it does get quite funny because what
That's a
PlayStation
hell of a
got,
tax
they got
write-off.
Live service experts, and the live service experts said, nah, dog, you can't ship that stuff, it's not ready. Which, you know, was pretty rough. Bloomberg reported that Bungie's staff basically gave The Last of Us's live service multiplayer game very harsh feedback during a big portfolio-wide evaluation.
I know
That
nothing
was
about
cut,
this.
the God of War one
I
was
knew
cut,
that they
believe.
cut it.
Loads of other things were
Yeah.
cut. And now in 2026,
But I don't
the
know
live
anything
service
about like
ambitions
the
look
development
very
of that or what
different.
those even look like. Oh, by the way,
And Bungie has
this.
had their experience
Where's my
stuff
mouse?
told
this right here. This is going to be another catastrophic. Another tower has hit the Sony plane.
and their projects taken away, so are they really live service experts anymore? I would say undoubtedly not. Though they've certainly had the opportunity to
We're
learn
already
from many
seeing that
very painful,
it's
very
looking
expensive
real
mistakes. But
bad.
it can get a bit worse because on top of all of that, there's also
They have
what
initial
Destiny
feedback and
Marathon can actually
everybody said it was
do. You see,
garbage.
what PlayStation's writing down is the actual value of Bungie versus what they
Mm-hmm.
paid for the potential of Bungie. And that really does show us one thing, that Bungie's leadership at the time managed to take massive advantage of the pandemic era panic and
I think Sony got scammed. I think Bungie might have scammed Sony. I think somebody at the company very much oversold it. They bought it. They bought it for much more than it was actually worth. And then they left. They're like, I'm gone. I made my money. See you guys. Have fun.
basically line their pockets.
Ooh,
So
yikes.
on that front, mission accomplished.
Big yikes.
And now for the big one. Is this the end of Bungie? A 20% write-down is bad. There's no denying that, and for some it has raised the question, is PlayStation about to wash their hands of the entirety
My prediction is it is not going to be the end of Bungie. I think Bungie probably will survive this. However, it might not be the same form of Bungie that people remember. I think that I don't know. I think that it will be a shadow of its former self for a while. I can't honestly see that it's going to be making any good games for a while, and people will have it fade into memory until maybe one day they come back, but it won't be for a while. They sold their reputation, not the current product. That's exactly what happened, but that's what I was trying to say is why they scammed them. They said, listen, we are Bungie. We are a sacred cow of the industry. We are this much money. And they're like, okay.
of Bungie. But that's not what this is, because only 20% still means PlayStation thinks Bungie is worth 80% of what they paid for them, at least right now. Because the first write-down is rarely the last one, and what we're talking about today isn't even the first write-down that they've had. 4 years of attrition has hollowed the company.
Man.
Senior talent are gone, projects killed. None of that stuff's coming back. And the
I
80%
cannot
still in
believe-
PlayStation's
I can
books
believe that we live in
is,
this
well, a
reality.
smaller studio than they bought. It's weaker leadership than they bought. It's less experienced staff. It's making games for audiences that exist but are shrinking radically, it would seem. Now, I should say, PlayStation's forecast for next year says that they're not expecting any more write-downs. How much do we believe that? I'm not exactly sure. The Bungie of 2022 was sold on its potential, and now the Bungie of 2026 has basically spent 4 years burning through all of that potential. What's written off this year is what's already gone. What's left, though, is battered staff who need PlayStation
There's
to
just nothing
honestly
left.
understand what they can
I mean, it's just been gutted. Like, who is left at Bungie is my real question. Like, what's going to be left of this company? They have no money to pay their employees, most likely, unless Sony's footing the bill for that, which they probably won't be doing for much longer. They've been laying off people. They have, like, none of their original leadership. Nobody who made Bungie. Like, where are you going?
realistically produce and actually support them in doing that. I'm not all that sure that they can. Though there could be glimmers of hope. I mean, the leadership that ran them into the ground is mostly gone. They leapt out the window with their golden parachutes. Maybe that can help. Maybe PlayStation, by not replacing the CEO and basically being the CEO themselves, maybe they will be able to run the studio better. And PlayStation's certainly saying that Marathon is still a game that they're backing.
I mean,
But of
again,
course,
we're talking about a company here was so tone deaf to try to force one of their best-selling games in the last, like, forever, however long that they've had, to activate PSN accounts for people who didn't want them.
they'll actually back the people still there.
They backed off
is
of it,
up for
yes,
debate,
but
and it is what will shape whatever
they still
Bungie
did it.
becomes next. I think that Destiny 2 is going to be on whatever life support until they can do a Destiny 3, and I think Destiny 3 will basically be the do or die Hail Mary for the company, and the ultimate
And it's probably
test
going to
of,
suck.
Can you run your game completely into the ground, keep it in a very depressed state for years upon years, and then orchestrate a big brand revival? To me,
Hey, you can try.
that seems like
Good
a
luck.
tough order. Do you know what's also tough? Being one of Ryan Cohen's little dudes. I know some people made a whole bunch of money with the GameStop meme stock stuff years ago.
Oh, yeah,
and obviously
I hear
didn't follow
GameStop
through to a
is
lot of the
like
other ventures. People
going
have
into
their
card
lives
games. Just
ruined
remember,
by the
kids,
Bed, Bath & Beyond
valuations of
debacle.
business are
Now,
all made
Ryan
upon
Cohen,
based
GameStop
on
are
vibes
trying
and
to
only
acquire
partially
eBay,
actual
and we've covered
assets,
it in the
most of
video
which
that you
are
can
also
watch next.
imaginary in the media
Honestly,
space.
I think
You're
we
not
will find
wrong.
it very revealing as to the sorts
You're
of
not wrong
things,
about that.
financial shenanigans that make people stupid fucking rich, but just earn shit for the rest of us.
All right. Thank you, Bellular. Let's see. Like, I understand why they do valuations based on future assets because it makes sense, right? Because if you buy somebody based on what they have, you're not technically purchasing their stock. You're purchasing their future profitability when you're buying a business. But like, some people are wildly optimistic, I think. Bungie, like a lizard, left Sony with only a barely twitching tail. You're not wrong. And I don't, like I said, it wasn't even like Bungie that did that. It was whoever like sold them at the time. I guess it was probably like the leadership, and they left. They did. They said they just left. Media is the only as valuable as the person or as the people who like the IP. Yeah. Like, a lot of people like Bungie IPs. Like, let's not get it twisted. A lot of people like Bungie. They do. 100%. The problem is that amount of people who are a lot are not relatively a lot considering all of the people they need in order to keep their company afloat. All right, I'm going to do real quick little fix right here because I just noticed that I can see the scroll bar on chat. Boom. We fixed it. I'm a real streamer. All right. So, hello. We're going to give a little bit of an introduction. This is a new creator with who I am reacting. I love this guy. His name is The Real Life Fake Wizard. He does a lot of like media analyses and discussions on media, and he does video games sometimes. And I like to mainly focus on the video game side of it. So, you know, this being a video about mixtape, I think it's important and pertinent to talk about. Like I said, I love this guy. He's great. He's super well spoken. He's funny as hell, in a dry sort of way, and very informative. I hope you guys like him. I hope you go watch his other content, but he does some interesting things where he introduces indie games at the beginning of his, sometimes at the beginning of his videos, and he's got this website called fakeportal.com. Fake Portal has like indie games on it, so it's kind of like a nice little library to go to if you want to find an indie game or something that's popular. So I'd give it a look if you're interested in that. He does a lot for indie games, at least from my perspective, and I really appreciate that. Well, without further ado, let's talk about Mixtape.
Hello, I'm the real life fake wizard.
You
Somewhere
are.
right now, a 38-year-old man is crying on his couch. He just finished a 3-hour video game about teenagers shoplifting and getting drunk in a parking lot, and he thinks he had some kind of spiritual experience.
An
He might take
epiphany,
to
if
Twitter
you
to
will.
post about his experience. He'll use words like masterpiece and nostalgia and my childhood. And for this experience, he would have paid $20 to buy it or subscribe to Game Pass. And either way, he might tell you this is the best game of the year. The game is called Mixtape, developed by an Australian-based
10 out of 10, by the way.
studio
IGN.
and published by Annapurna. This game has received perfect 10 out of 10 scores from major outlets.
Which, by the way, I will remind everybody that Black Myth Wukong got an 8. I believe Crimson Desert got a 6. Stellar Blade got a 7. Pretty much every game that people liked got underneath an 8. Interesting how that
OpenCritic
works.
has it at 94% at the time of recording this. Recommended by 97% of critics. In
Imagine.
Mixtape, 3 teenagers in Northern California in 1999 will drive around, shoplift, trespass,
99 didn't look like this. I remember 99.
drink underage, vandalize a house with toilet
Just saying.
paper, and arrive at a party. In the climax, one of the teenagers threatens her police officer father with arson to avoid being grounded. The game frames this as her moment of triumph. Critics
I just can't believe people think that this is like anything that's substantive. It's just like, dude, you are your father's a police officer and you're threatening him that you're going to start doing more and more crime if he doesn't like listen to you. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? That's not powerful. That's stupid and self-destructive. First of all, like,
called it a
what are
standout
you talking
performance.
about?
The game, in its entirety, is only 3 hours
It's
long.
so
And from
ridiculous.
this, 38 and 42-year-old men are sobbing all over the West.
Yeah, I can't
Mixtape
believe
is
it.
like some kind of test for the gaming public. You either love it like it's the greatest game of the year,
And you're in the minority.
or you're puzzled that these people are falling for this crap.
And you're in the majority.
It is a $20 emotional manipulation device that exploits a generation's refusal to reckon with the distance between who they were and who they
Jesus.
became. The critical establishment that crowned it is comprised of access economy incentives, demographic targeting, and the Annapurna brand halo.
Like, I'm not gonna say that it's this game's fault, but I'm gonna totally say it's this game's fault because it's funny. This game actually made me physically ill. Even though I was physically ill before that, but we're not gonna talk about that.
The characters the audience is weeping over are narcissistic, self-righteous, and in the case of the game's emotional centerpiece, willing to threaten domestic terrorism to avoid accountability.
So that's another thing that's really interesting is they say that the characters aren't even likable. That's so true. Like, these characters were so detestable.
Mixtape is nostalgia for failures.
It's just like, shut up. I
Now,
get
hang on
it.
there. Before we continue, big announcement. We have a brand new home for all of our live streams. Fake Wizards Live. All
Hell
our
yeah,
streams
brother.
are moving to this new channel, effective right now. So if you've been catching us live on this channel, go over there instead. The Real Life Fake Wizard will exclusively be videos from here on out. So that's 3 shows a week, all on Fake Wizards
I'd have to
Live.
go.
The link is
You know,
below
I
in the
kind of want to go
description
check out one of
and
his
in the
live streams one of
comments,
these
too.
days.
Come on over and
Like-
subscribe so you don't miss us going
Yeah,
live.
we're gonna wait for
We'll
his
see you
ad
then.
to be over.
You
Boom.
play-
Like, I'm not like a huge like live stream viewer. I usually like to watch VODs and stuff like that. I rarely watch live streams, which probably comes as a bit of a shock to people, but I'm more of like a, you know, I like the distilled version of it, and I can completely understand people are like that, but that's one of the live streams because like he seems like he's pretty chill. So if you're into live streams, you might want to go check him out too. I'd love to see if he's actually pretty funny when he's on live stream or what have you.
Play as Stacy Rockford, an aspiring music supervisor, on her last night in this fictional small town before she leaves for New York. Through the game, you'll hang out with her two friends, Slater, a stereotypical stoner, and Cassandra, the rebellious daughter of a police officer. Together, the three of them skateboard through town, visit each other's bedrooms, rummage through closets.
I don't think I've seen someone shoot their reputation in the foot as fast as Annapurna rather. It's interesting because it's just like they have some games that people actually like under their publishing label. And I think this is the video that gets into it. I think he gets into who they actually are and what they've actually published and who's like behind it. But I remember seeing something about who's actually behind Annapurna. And when you see their history, you begin to realize like they really didn't shoot their reputation in the foot so much as the people who are making the publishing decisions were trying to save them from their own self.
Blockbuster and search for hidden alcohol stashes. Truly riveting activities. Along the way, there will be melodramatic petty conflicts with ups and downs, eventually leading to the trio throwing their own final party at a secret cabin in the woods.
I hate the fact that they keep fourth wall breaking to talk about whatever fucking bullshit they're talking about. It was just like, dude, let me play the game.
Woods. As the player,
let me play through this as an aspect.
Gameplay such as skipping stones,
doing nothing,
taking photos,
doing nothing,
dodging cars,
doing nothing,
and swapping spit.
This is disgusting. This actually made me physically reel. This was awful.
Gross. The interactivity, where it exists at all, exists in the same register as a QuickTime event in a cutscene. There are no puzzles. There are no choices that affect outcomes. There is no system the player can learn, exploit, or master. There are no fail states. You cannot lose. If you miss a QuickTime button timing, the character completes the action anyway most of the time. The review geek identified...
I would say that if you really wanted to split hairs, you probably could set the controller down and the game, for the most part, will play itself in about 70% of its sections. You probably don't even need to put any input into the controller as long as it's moving you forward.
This as well. Mixtape mistakes interaction for interactivity.
That's the second time the scene caught you while you were eating. Well, I am so sorry about that. I don't want to go for the nasty hat trick, but
the player is enrolled in someone else's mood and given
hopefully
just
next time,
prompts
God
to feel
forbid we have to see it another time
without ever being responsible for it. I joked while playing the game that I was surprised the game shipped without a auto walk button. The game already does almost everything for the player. One more design step and it would play itself, which would be honest, because what the game wants from the player is not engagement.
Nope, they want you to sit there and watch.
So how did this, a 3-hour interactive film with no fail states and no meaningful player agency, receive perfect scores and enter the Game of the Year conversation? Well, that's
because it was not meant to be a game. It was meant to be... What do I want to say it is? It was meant to be a piece by which you watch and you are talked at through.
It's easy. It's because everyone is compromised. The critical consensus around Mixtape cannot be trusted because of 3 possible comprised positions. Beneath the Annapurna brand sits the access economy. Outlets that want early review codes for the next Annapurna release cannot afford to be the outlet that pans this one. There's also the...
If they had any amount of integrity, they would have been the ones to say, nah, this game is dog shit. Even if they got whatever bullshit they got. Like, that actually is a big problem in the games industry that a lot of people don't really, people talk about, but doesn't really get fixed, is the problem of access, where if you go against the grain of a company or a major game release that everybody else kind of is on the same ideological side of, or even business side of, we can even take ideology out of this for a second, you likely will never receive another copy or another game to review early because they now know that you are, quote, the enemy, end quote. It's not even a walking sim. At least walking sims rely on you moving and exploring the world, so investigating and uncovering it. Yeah, no, that's very true. Like I said, I like to make the comparison of Life is Strange, right? Like, yeah, people can have their opinions about Life is Strange. People can hate it, people can love it, but at least in Life is Strange, there's a semblance of puzzles and a semblance of agency in the world in which you can exert.
Extravagant gift boxes for Mixtape we keep seeing popping up. They are very expensive and very exclusive. Do you want to keep getting these gift boxes?
No.
It'll cost you your integrity. Then there's the Microsoft Access angle. Mixtape launched as a day one Game Pass game in a time when Xbox
A day one Game Pass game. They're putting their best forward at Xbox.
desperately needs positive word of
Jesus.
mouth and motivation for gamers to enter the Xbox apparatus.
Hey, what a way to get it.
Xbox adjacent outlet has direct economic reasons to want their subscribers feeling good about what is on Game Pass, especially with consideration for the new stewardship of Xbox.
You know, maybe put some fucking good games on Xbox Game Pass. Maybe then you'll actually get people who want it. Holy shit, this was not the game. Indie game with day one merch, by the way. Was it even merch? It wasn't even merch. It was like a day one press kit, right? Because like I don't think that, I mean, you might be able to buy stuff. I don't know. I don't really know what the externals are looking like on like what you can buy externally and merch for that. But like if it doesn't matter either way, they spend a lot of fucking money on tangential things that aren't just the game.
And beneath the platform money sits the deepest problem, which is a demographic capture. The people writing about Mixtape are roughly the same age and culture.
The people writing about Mixtape don't play video games. Like, I'm just gonna say it. The people who write about, who have been like saying like Mixtape is like this the next coming of Jesus, so to speak, they don't play video games. And honestly, we should treat them like the people that they are. People who know nothing about games. And we shouldn't even like listen to their opinion about anything. They should have added an auto walk and put a square with the main character in the corner, breaking the fourth wall even more and giving even more useless comments. Oh no, you accidentally went into the corner. Hang on, I should turn around before my friends think I'm weird. It's still considered merch, and we're talking about a custom-made CD player, tape decks, and stuff like that. Yeah, no, none of that is cheap. You're correct. Like, I guess you're right. It's still considered merch. I guess, like, in my brain, I kind of, like, thought about merch as in, like, something that the another person can purchase. But, yeah, no, it is ridiculous, the amount of things that people got out of this. And you know what? You want to know what the worst part about this is I'm going to bet you in the future, like maybe 20 to 30 years down the line, that stuff's going to be worth a lot of money. And the reason it's going to be worth a lot of money is not because the game's going to be remembered as being any good. It's because it's going to be remembered as like this weird, unique thing that came out that everybody hated, but nothing of it exists anymore. So if you happen to have a copy of it, it's going to be expensive.
Formation
Likely.
as the people who made it.
Maybe likely.
They are reviewing a product that was designed for them by their peers, and they cannot see it from the outside because there is no outside. When a reviewer says a product was made just for me and then assigns it a 10 out of 10, the review has ceased to be a criticism and
yeah, it's a glaze piece. I can hear the glock from here. Holy shit, dude.
It's as if you signed a thank you note. The characters in Mixtape are revealing in a way the game does not appear to understand. Together, they are the game's framing of a sensitive coming-of-age story about the last night of high school. What they actually are is hard to look at. Rockford is a contemptuous narcissist who treats every person in her life as either an obstacle or a fool. She is convinced of her own depth on the basis of her musical taste.
Yeah, she really came off as like, and I would know this because I'm pretty full of myself too at times, but she was very full of herself. Like, sure, if we're gonna do a bit of self-reflection, yeah, I'm not the most humble of individuals, but like, man, she really put me to shame.
Rockford's central crisis is that her carefully curated final night isn't going the way she planned. Cassandra is the rebel standing against her father, who genuinely just wants what's best for her.
Imagine her dad wants the best for her, so therefore he's the enemy. Isn't that funny how that works?
And in a grand act
what an
of
asshole, right, guys?
Which also happens to be the scene that most reviewers are citing as cathartic and transcendent, occurs when the cabin she and her friends have just set on fire is burning behind her, and her police officer father arrives.
Man.
And she yells at him.
I want you
Oh my god, I can't. This is cringe.
to understand. This ain't a catastrophe. It's a warning.
Okay.
Daddy, if you trap me here, this will only be the the beginnings of my wicked ways.
After reading the message, I realized that it would have been we've got Let's Plays at home, right? I'm not gonna lie. You know, I'm really not a big fan of corporal punishment, but this really kind of shows that some children need the belt.
Cause I'm angry
Just
and
saying.
I'm wired and I'm fixing for a whole lot of trouble.
Jesus Christ, dude.
If you make me stay here, I'm gonna burn the whole place down.
This
Yeah,
is
I'm sure
a
you
literal
will.
threat of escalating terrorism delivered to a police officer while the result of her previous arson burns behind her.
This is what should have happened. You are now an adult. You are being arrested. I don't care if you're my daughter. You are now going into jail. Have fun spending a dime in prison.
Now, I'm no detective here. I'm just a fake wizard. But all of that is
Good luck.
extremely suspect. How does the police officer father handle this threat from a criminal, you might ask?
There'll be patrol cars up and down this road. Get out of here. Go on.
Aiding and abetting.
Back the way you came.
You know what they do to
And
police officers in prison? Nothing good.
Well, I guess we have ourselves an understanding.
Yeah, I'm sure.
The gaming press.
Good lord, I
has
can't
called
stand
this
it.
A teenage girl finding her voice, threatening her father, a cop, with arson,
Mm-hmm.
standing in front of arson. He caves and lets her run away. These characters are not profound, nor are they real. They are tantrums by privileged children, both inside the game itself and the writers with keyboards that wrote this trite, refusing to ever let any of the three experience.
Jail, stamp on the forehead. Exactly. No, he's right. Like, this is all trite, right? Like, I think that's a good word to describe it. It's just like, you can tell, like, it comes very obviously the intense distaste for you, the viewer, that is coming through in the way in which this is presented. At least that's what I feel whenever I hear this stuff
Consequences for terrible
or
choices.
watch
There
this
are
stuff.
moments when Rockford and Cassandra could and should be reality checked by an adult, like burning down a cabin in the woods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which
you
could
can't
pivot
do
the story
that.
into something more honest. But the game walks back every opportunity. Mixtape is a game about American high schoolers in the 1990s made
Burning
by
down a
adults from
house.
Australia who look back at the cringe of their high school days and say, yeah, I had it all figured out then too.
Yeah, they did.
Who
They
yearns
certainly did.
For these people. The question now becomes, if these are the
Psychopaths.
characters, what does it reveal about the people who weep over them? Shack News told you who they are. Quote, perfectly executed coming-of-age stereotypes that immediately remind you of someone you knew growing up, or maybe even yourself.
Bro, I cannot identify with any of these characters. I feel like I can speak for my siblings who were teens in the 90s when I say they would have been belted for that. Exactly. I can speak for myself as I grew, existed in the 90s. If I had done any of this shit, I'd have been belted for that. And I looking back at it, justifiably so. Also, I don't know anybody that can ever identify with these characters. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, if you identify with like what's happening here, you have lied to yourself so catastrophically that reality is now a distortion.
If you see yourself in Rockford, you see yourself as someone who dismisses people based on their media consumption and describes her friendships as instruments of control. If you see yourself in Cassandra, you see yourself as someone who threatened her own father to get what she wanted.
Yep.
And they call it empowerment. If you see yourself in Slater, you see yourself as someone who replaces ambition with affability and calls
drugs.
it a lifestyle. The game asks you to love these people.
No,
the question is
I don't got
what
it in
that
me. I
love
can't do it.
says about the person doing the loving. Right now, there are critics, shills, journalists, everyone in the gaming press marketing apparatus weeping online over the idea that this game is allowing them to relive their teenage years again. That this game is a 10 out of 10 because it made me
by the way,
feel nostalgic.
Background being BioShock based as fuck. It's because this feels like the late 80s, mid 90s teen movie when it looked like, well, yeah, but like the problem is in it being like one of the, or rather looking like one of them, it's not one of them because those movies actually kind of had a lot more going on than just like whatever this is, because this is like a modernist interpretation of those types of tropes. It wasn't made contemporarily.
This is a lie, whether they know it or not. Game Informer's reviewer and many others wrote in praise that Mixtape makes me nostalgic for a life I never lived.
Imagine there's a word for that, but
that's right. You didn't live this. This isn't your life.
And I say that
VGC's
loving Breakfast Club.
Further,
I've never watched The Breakfast Club.
America, and the game
I know a little bit about it, but
real feelings of longing for its fictional small town.
Honestly, I believe that they're just writing this because they got the message, so to speak. They know what they are supposed to feel, and they're telling them that they do feel it.
There's actually a word for this, and it's not nostalgia.
Here it is.
Was coined in 2012 by American writer John Koenig. Anemoia is defined as nostalgia for a time you've never known. The crucial distinction is that anemoia is built on imagination and not a real experience. It is longing for a projection for what you believe a past era felt like based on things like media, photographs, and cultural artifacts. BBC
Again, I would put in a question that if they ever really actually feel this. I don't think they do. I think this might just be like, I think they might just be expressing it. I know, imagine, as soon as you type that, I think you hit the time where he says it. But no, I don't think that they actually feel that. I think, like, maybe we can make an argument for some of them actually feeling it. I think this is a little bit more pragmatic. I think that they pragmatically understood the assignment, so to speak. I think they understood, I have to write this.
Science Focus has connected anemoia to the mechanics of populist political movements.
Learned anemoia, there we go.
Young voters susceptible to nostalgia-based messaging are often experiencing anemoia, a rose-tinted yearning for a past they never lived through, amplified by dissatisfaction with present circumstances. This is the same psychological mechanic that makes someone receptive to the phrase, "I was born in the wrong generation."
Imagine.
No, you weren't. You really want to go back to no air conditioning, you dunce? Well, it's the same mentality of someone who is receptive to Mixtape. Both ideals sell a return to a past that
none of them would want to go back to the late 80s, early 90s because of the cultural existence in which you would live. They wouldn't know how to handle the 90s because it's very weird. But looking back at the 90s was the decade, at least from my perspective, where nobody gave a fuck. Like, you could say whatever you want for the most part. Nobody gave a shit. You could say, you could be whoever you want. Nobody gave a shit for the most part. Like, as long as you weren't, like, up in somebody else's face, which these people do all the time, they can't not do it. Nobody cared.
Only ever existed as a feeling. Simon Cardy's 10 out of 10 review contains what amounts to a signed confession. He writes, "I was born too late to be a teenager in the 90s. I grew up thousands of miles away from the schools of Northern California."
So you were born too late for the decade. You were born too far from being on the setting. You barely stepped onto the skateboard and scraped your knees. So you were born without any drive to be this type of person. But none of that matters, and Mixtape knows it. Okay.
California. I've barely stepped on a skateboard outside of a few scraped knees in the summer of 2003, but none of that matters, and Mixtape knows this. He then writes, "True nostalgia isn't the replication of a specific place or time, but of a feeling. This is anemoia described in
my
real
opinion,
time
there
by a
are
man who doesn't know the word.
In my opinion, there are quite a few such people in gaming journalism now, more than you think. You think that there's more people who actually are feeling what is being termed here as anemoia. I mean, I can kind of understand that. And like I said, we're talking about, at least in my opinion, assumptions based on somebody else's internal feelings, which we're never going to be able to get a clear consensus on because we're not that person. But I can see where you're coming from. Like, I'm willing to accept that maybe they do feel it on their heart, but the cynical part of me, like the manipulative, cynical part of me, the garbage human being in me is telling me no, they don't believe it. They're only doing it for their own pragmatic and rational gains. And I can't get over that because I see this and it's just like, if I were a shitty human being, what would I do? I'd be doing this. I'd be saying whatever the fuck I needed to say in order to get more access and understand the assignment. Cause like it probably came as read between the lines. You were going to accept this and fall into line. And I you know, if I were a crappy human being, I'd do it. I mean, history's filled with a litany of people like that. So that's where I'm coming from on it. That's why I like have a hard time believing that people actually believe this stuff. But I've also been called somebody who's a little bit more, I guess, jaded's the wrong word, maybe cynical when it comes to these types of things. So I mean, you could be entirely right. I don't know. I don't really trust my gauge of that 100% of the time. Sometimes I have to defer to other people, but I like to take a cynical approach to this. It feels like it's just mid to late millennials who wish they were teens in the 90s because of movies. I can kind of see that. Yeah. Especially because like growing up in the post 9/11 era is definitely what I would consider to be weird. I'm happy that I didn't grow up in that era.
Telling
so
you
to
that
speak.
the game induced a longing for a
Grow
time
up in
he
quotes,
never
by the way.
experienced, in a place he never visited, among people he never knew, and he scored it 10 out of 10 because it did that. He's evaluating the effectiveness of an emotional manipulation and praising the manipulators for hitting him precisely where he's weakest. He was transported to a version of his past that
didn't
mixtape
exist.
constructed for him.
Yep.
It's a past filtered through someone else's music, someone else's cultural
Jesus.
references, and someone else's imagined California.
You know what? Let's take a second to just realize and recognize how shitty that must be for that person. Like, if you don't have nostalgia for your own past, of course, there's some, like, you know, people who have some bad experiences that makes sense that they don't have nostalgia for it. But if all things being equal, you grew up somewhat normative in a way and you don't have nostalgia for your own experiences, bro, get a life. Like, sorry. I don't mean to be so cruel, but like, this is why I have a hard time believing this, is because like, I don't think that you believe what you're writing. It's the romanticization of the 90s kids that they didn't get to really be because they were born just a bit young for the 90s rebel movies. Yeah, maybe, but still, it's just like, why rebel? Like, what is there to rebel about?
These men are crying over memories they never made in response
When
to
you were a child,
characters
specifically.
who would despise them. The people yearning for Mixtape's version of the 1990s are the same people who inherited a counterculture and pawned it for stock options.
Imagine.
Mixtape's cast of characters are depicted as teenagers, but have the mindset and dialogue of 40-year-old also-ran intellectuals. They think they have the world all figured out and that they're going to best adulthood because they're smarter than everyone else.
Said
In
every
real
teenager
life,
ever.
This was the decade, the 90s, that was still saying, fight the man, and produced a
In a way, in a little bit of a direction, yes, but that mentality in the late 1990s, it was there, but it wasn't nearly as prevalent as earlier.
culture, including Rage Against the Machine, and also produced the generation that grew up to become the machine's middle management.
That's true.
Don't be evil was Google's founding motto.
Remember, you have to fight against the machine until you can become the machine. Then the machine itself is good.
A statement of counterculture values embedded in the DNA of a startup born in a garage. Google quietly retired the motto in 2015. By then, the company had become one of the largest surveillance apparatus in human history, and the generation that grew up on Rage Against the Machine t-shirts was designing its user interfaces. Think different was Apple's slogan, borrowed from the counterculture and used to sell the most
Think different unless it's directly in opposition of the way that we think.
conformist consumer product on the planet. The aesthetic of rebellion was absorbed into corporate branding with surgical precision. The hoodie-wearing CEO, the open plan office designed to look like a garage, Spotify playlists curated to simulate the discovery experience that killed the record store. Every signifier of 90s anti-establishment energy was strip-mined and repurposed as a branding exercise. And the generation that thought it was
So
so
true.
self-righteously smart about power structures built the power structures that now dominate every aspect of your daily life. Or they became the
Like, it is really dystopian in a quote dystopian in a way. The directionality from somebody who grew up in an environment like this that then directly co-ops those aesthetics in order to sell a package deal. It's insane that more people can't see that for what it is, but it makes sense because, you know, you directly live it and you don't really like sit there and analyze everything that you do
cogs in those structures,
or everything that
they
you
simply
participate
consume
with.
the product those structures produced. These access media shills who are weeping over Mixtape checked their iPhones afterward. They drive to Starbucks. They donate to causes via apps owned by conglomerates. They
Those
post
damn
their
Gen X and
nostalgia on
90s kids,
platforms that
they
monetize
ruin
their
everything.
emotional data. They are the
Jesus.
consumers who allowed megacorporations to colonize every corner of public life. And they did it while wearing vintage band t-shirts and doing Chungus
That they probably never
TikToks.
listened to in
These
concert.
overly emotional millennials sobbing over Mixtape are the same people who sold out the world they claim to understand. And now they want to go back to the moment before they signed the contract. That's what Mixtape offers. A return
They didn't sign the contract. They wrote the contract and then signed it.
to the last instant you could pretend you were going to be different. This game's characters don't actually rebel against anything, though they say they are.
Well, they've got like no direction to what they are trying to make as a point, right? They're rebelling for this, at least specifically the person who burned down the house. They're rebelling just to like rebel, and you can't address the underlying concern from the side of the father because that would directly undermine the experience and feeling of the rebellion, right? It's like when you put in a context that all the father wants is, whether or not he did it good or poorly is immaterial, wants them to go to a good school, get good grades, become the best adult that they can be, and look forward to their future. That undermines every single bit of the rebellion, right? Because you can't argue with the result that is desired because it's a positive and good result.
Their rebellion
can't argue
has
with
no
that.
political content, no ideological framework, no target beyond personal convenience. Cassandra confronts her father's curfew. Rockford vandalizes a principal's house because he gave her detention. They shoplift.
Imagine.
They throw toilet paper. They get drunk in a parking lot. Skate, party, avoid the law, hang out, sneak out, make out. That is
Yeah,
the
they're-
full extent
they're not good
of
people.
its moral universe. Rebellion as aesthetic, purposely.
Which you could make a good story about people not being good people, but they didn't because they wanted to present them as the standard of good people.
Consequence-free and marketable. The people who identify with these characters aren't nostalgic for rebellion. They're nostalgic for the costume of rebellion, the version that requires nothing and costs nothing, which is, once again,
Yeah,
exactly
heaven forbid
what
these
the
people
game
actually
delivers.
have to rebel
A
against
3-hour
something.
simulation of transgression that's just long enough to make sure you're past the return policy window on Steam. Mixtape's critical reception reflects a compromised press corps, seduced by the Annapurna halo, incentivized by the gaming press ecosystem, primed by the elaborate press kits, and targeted with demographic precision by a product designed to appeal to the exact people.
It's just so many people that are like coming and interconnected in order to like push this thing. And like we haven't even talked about who Annapurna is and who bankrolls Annapurna, right? Like that's gone unaddressed already, which also is another piece of the puzzle. It's interesting that only and out of this video game, as like just talking about the video game, we've already reached the conclusions where it's just like, this is ridiculous.
People evaluating it. Its emotional responses are licensed from real artists and deployed as a substitute for
License.
earned narrative weight.
How much money do they spend with those licensings too? Because apparently those are forever licensed. Funny enough, there's even more vintage 1950s movies that defines these kids' disposition in its title, Rebel Without a Cause. Yeah, no, exactly. Like, it's not new that teenagers rebel. It really isn't. That is a thing that has been consistent for a long time. What it is more or less is in the era that they're trying to like show people, and what they're trying to do through this is they are trying to fabricate an emotion and fabricate an entire, I would say, temporal a timeline, essentially, that only goes in service of what they are trying to peddle to you.
Its design
It's
philosophy
kind of
eliminates
insipid.
consequences, creating a fantasy of rebellion that costs nothing, risks nothing, and means nothing. And the audience that is embracing it, the whole 12 of them, are the adults sweeping on their couches, posting about how
The games journalists.
just hit different, is the
Yeah,
same
the
audience
ones that are trying
grew
to
up
tell
on
you that
anti-establishment anthems and then became
they have
the
better tastes
establishment.
than you.
The same audience that wanted to fight the machine and became the machine's supply chain.
Yep.
They are mourning a version of themselves that
never existed because
in a decade,
they're not
that
interesting
never
enough.
Felt the
Like, they're not interesting enough to be what they think is interesting.
way the game says it
Which
did
already
in
is kind of
response to
anti-interesting.
characters who would have found them contemptible.
Jesus.
But here is something that is missed, and something I hope lights a fire in you if you made it to this point in the video. You are seeing this. You are still here. You are alive in a world that demands more of you than just yearning. Yearning for the past is pathetic.
It's true.
When you have the ability to fight for your life today, like right now. You are older than the teenager you're mourning, and you are better equipped than that teenager ever was. You have failed at things that teenager couldn't have imagined attempting.
And it makes you much
Every hour
better.
you spend mourning a fictionalized version of your youth, or even
Is
your
it
real
another
youth
moment that you
itself,
don't spend
is
improving?
an hour stolen from the person you could still
Yeah.
become. The 90s don't need you to go back. The 90s needed you to take what you learned, the music, the friendships, the pain and discovery, and build something with it. Right now, today, is better than yesterday.
Yep.
Knowledge is more accessible right now than ever before. You have tools, you have skills and perspectives that any version of your past self could only have dreamed of. Use them. Forgo your past. Fight for your tomorrow.
Hell
Looking
yeah, brother.
backwards just hurts your neck. Until next time, create, innovate, inspire others to do so as well. And for the love of God, cancel Disney Plus.
I'm ahead of you. I never got a Disney Plus.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. All right. I think that it is very true that this entire thing with Mixtape is all done by people who have no idea about the past and is propped up by people who, in my opinion, have no stake in it whatsoever. They only have a stake in bludgeoning you into believing what they want you to believe. Damn, I didn't expect a real-life fake wizard to give me a pep talk today. Listen, the real-life fake wizard is definitely a good source of motivation. I love his content. His content's great. And, you know, he does do a lot of, like, what's it called? Pepping, I guess. Or rather, he does a lot of, like, you know, be motivated, get yourself motivated to be who you are. And that's what I like him too, because it's just like, it's good to hear that from somebody, especially because like people don't hear that nearly enough. Thanks. Future forever. Thanks, Dad, guys. I don't, well, I mean, I guess he is a wizard, right? But no, I appreciate that amount of energy coming from a content creator too. So, and you know, I would like to eventually become known as somebody who at least can inspire one person to do something. That would be, you know, my greatest achievement is if I've inspired people to, you know, create content, or as small as I am, or inspired people maybe to, like, you know, try an indie game that they might not have otherwise tried. Like that's just like, that would make me feel better than earning $1 million. Quite honestly, because then I'll have like had a tangible impact in somebody's life. And that's like more important to me than pretty much anything. But yeah, to stop getting a little bit more, you know, on the, I guess on the emotional side, I'm not really good at dealing with that type of stuff. I get overly emotional sometimes, and that's not what I want to present today. But anyway, great video. Love his content. Let's see what Legendary Drops has for us. I think this one we're talking about PlayStation, and I'm not quite sure. I think this is another part of. I think this might be another part of the Bungie acquisition, but we'll see. And you know, quite honestly, I really like Legendary Drops too. He has he has some really good takes. I don't agree with everything, but I do agree with at least a plurality to majority of what he says. So we'll see what he says.
Oh man, I thought things were bad, but I didn't know they were this bad, and they're a lot worse than what people are telling you guys right now.
All right.
Sony has to feel scammed. Wool
Okay,
pulled
so
over
we are
their eyes, sold
talking
snake
about
oil,
Bungie.
torching nearly $1 billion off the books because they bought 2 failed live service games instead of 1. What a bargain! Surely it can't get any worse. Well,
This will probably have more information than the other Bellular video that we said, but it's still talking about how much like money they're writing down in the background. And I cannot wait until we see the future down the line problems that this is going to cause. Yeah, the more you grow, the more you appreciate the small things. That's very true. A lot of people usually don't take the time to sit there and think about the small things, but really at the end of the day, all that really matters is if you're okay with yourself and okay with the things that you've done, right? So as long as you can say, I did this small thing that, helped somebody else out, that's worth so much more than $100,000 at the end of the day, in my opinion.
I've looked into it, and of course it does. Predictable. That's all I can say. It's the best thing that I can say. When you have audiences that are as loud as the people that have been around Bungie or Destiny or Marathon or hell, any other game right now, these guys, the players warned you. All the signs were there. You had all the information that you needed, but you just refused to listen. And while I do think that it looks like Marathon,
I mean, players were literally screaming at the top of their lungs, bro, we don't want this. And they have been for like at least half a decade. I'd say a decade.
Starting to make some of the right choices, that only came after you were financially incentivized by the audience to do so. And that's definitely not the way that things should go. This industry is just, they're so obsessed with reaching audiences that they just refuse to understand. They don't want to listen to you. They see you more as market share than they actually see you as people. And I don't think this is something that is just limited to Bungie or Sony. I think this is everywhere right now. I think a lot of the burned money and the failed live service games, just failed games in general that we've seen over the past couple of years are because of this. I think Bungie is the cost of that blindness. The fact that these guys just don't want to see you as people. They only want to see you as a consumer.
I don't even think that's the case. I think most of the people on the business side don't understand what's going on. They just want money to be printed. And most of the people on like the design and decisions side actively hate you. Like they actively hate the gamer, mostly because they want to like put in front of you all this garbage that like nobody really asked for, only because they feel like they have to because it's what's worked in the past, without actually engaging with the video gaming public, right? Because like it's one thing to say like, yo, people don't want hero shooters. It's another thing to say we're going to put out a bunch of hero shooters and also put in like all this mixed messaging that we agree with. And I think we're at that point where it's just like, guys, nobody wants this.
So today I want to talk about how Sony
and they just don't listen.
Nearly $1 billion off the books because of Bungie. I want to talk about the fate of Marathon and Destiny.
They torched that shit. They just lit it on fire.
With getting our money, refuses to understand the people that spend it. Before that, a word from today's sponsor, Boot.dev, longtime partner of the channel and one of the best websites if you want to learn to code.
Hell
Instead
yeah.
of just vibing out to a YouTube video in the background that you then close afterwards. If you guys actually want to learn how to do it, this is the site to use.
Again,
I hop on the site in my free time
I
because
would be
it doesn't
really
feel
bad
like
at
I'm
this.
actually studying. I'm earning XP, completing quests, fighting bosses, and the whole time I'm actually learning
I
back-end development.
understand the
Python,
underlying
SQL,
principle behind
Go,
coding.
real
I just
skills, the kind of stuff that would land you
I just
a
don't
job with
get
a
it.
median salary of $100,000
There's something there that's just
probably more,
stopping me
and
from
you're doing
understanding it
probably from
fully.
the comfort of your own couch. There's a bear wizard named Boots that acts as your tutor. He doesn't just hand you the answers. Instead, it tries to push you towards figuring it out yourself. And then they also just drop the training grounds, which is basically infinite challenge grind, so you can really lock something in before moving on. It's the kind of thing that really respects your time without just padding out the entire course. All the content is free to read and watch, which means you could just go and teach yourself if you wanted to. Paid tiers just unlock the interactive stuff, the hands-on coding, AI help, and the full RPG experience. Go
I've
to
heard that
boot.dev
some
if
people
you're
really like
interested and
this.
use my code
So
legendary
again,
drops at checkout.
I don't
That's
really
gonna
know
give
much
you
about it. I
25%
did do a
off your
free
first
trial not
entire
too long
year
ago,
on
like
an
probably
annual
about a
plan.
year ago,
Link
and
is
it
in
was
the description.
okay.
I'll be real with you guys, with the news cycle kicking into high gear, the stacked
swallowed
release
up
schedule
anyway.
ahead of us,
Attitude
Grand Theft
ruins
Auto
it all.
6 leaks that have
Yeah.
been pumping, and Summer Games Fest right around the corner. I'd almost all but forgotten about Marathon.
So like they'll swallow it all up, like attitude, in my opinion, kind of like shows that they're unwilling to engage with the gaming public. Like that's what I'm trying to say. And people are at the point, in my opinion, where people no longer want to just swallow it up. Like we're kind of done eating the shit, right? At least that's that most people seem to like. Yeah, there's still some shit eaters out there that are going to buy whatever the new product is, but they're becoming fewer and far between, which is a good sign. That's why I keep saying, like, I'm totally okay with a total industry collapse at this point, because then it will help reorient the industry into giving people what they actually want, and maybe elevate some indie development studios to AAA status that actually care about their like public or care about their audience. Like, I don't know. I'm a very maximalist. Like, I take a very maximalist approach to this, where at this point it's not worth keeping around or saving. We might as well just completely redo it, let it fail for the next decade, and then we'll come back, because games aren't going to go away. It'll just go into indie game territory, which is a total benefit for most people.
And it seems like just about everybody else has too. Despite the game's defenders and games media trying to sell it off as something more than what it actually was, some game that was just destined for greatness that we just couldn't see yet. But you know, in my eyes and in the eyes of a lot of other players,
this game was not destined for greatness. It's
failure.
Fucking
Bungie
awful.
just flat out abandoned their audience with Destiny to go and make this new game and this new audience that was never theirs to begin with Marathon, and then they just made this game that was incredibly niche for an incredibly niche audience, and this was just always going to end the same way.
It's funny, yeah, because that's a good point. They built this niche game for a niche audience and expected it to have mainstream appeal. Like, okay.
Result of that. Well, Marathon
Good luck
launched
with
to a peak
that.
of 88,000 players, started declining
Man.
within its first week, and it just never recovered
that
from that.
graph.
Instead, it just cascaded downwards, now hovering around.
If I were an executive looking at this graph, what I would be suffering from would be heartburn, heart palpitations, heart attack, stroke. Like this would be like catastrophic.
12,000 players, down nearly 90% from their launch, a number, mind you, that you just flat out cannot survive as a live service. It's just not possible.
As a
especially
live
with
service
how much
that
money
spent
they
$2.5
invested
million
into this game, and even
or
more
sorry,
so when you consider how
$250
many
million
developers
into
Bungie
it.
has and how much those guys are actually getting paid. So now Bungie has gone all hands on deck trying to save this new game, while support for Destiny 2 has grinded to a halt, showing those players exactly who they find more important and causing that game to tank just the same.
Jesus.
2 failures for the price of 1. That's not a deal that I would take, but it's one that Sony has, and somehow it has only gotten worse. During their most recent earnings call, Sony announced a $565 million impairment loss against Bungie, which combined with the $200 million impairment loss they took last year, now comes to the tune of
So it wasn't just 700 in 1 year, it was 201 and 500 in the other, which is like, oh, it's getting worse.
$765 million.
Oh,
Sony
no.
CFO stated, earnings from Bungie's title portfolio did not meet our expectations, so we downwardly revised our business plan and impaired the full amount of the fixed assets related to
Jesus
Bungie
Christ.
except for goodwill. So the whole reason that
They can take an impairment of $785 million, but if I default on a $500 loan,
I made this
jail
video is
time for
because
me.
this is actually a lot worse than what people are letting on right now, because I'm sure not a lot of people are spending their free time trying to brush up on their accounting lingo. Fixed
Jesus.
assets are things like software, engines, the physical assets. Goodwill is the brand. Bungie's games have flopped now to such a degree that Sony is forced to admit that those assets that they had purchased are no longer worth what they paid for, wiping
well, not only that, but it also continues to devalue Bungie as a brand. It's kind of funny because it's just like, it's kind of this self-fulfilling prophecy now at this point where they devalue as a brand. They don't get valued as much, and they get devalued from Sony, and that devaluing also then devalues Bungie. It's like, oh God, say it with me. Tax breaks. Yeah, exactly. I wonder how much, like I said, I wonder how much they're going to write off in this one Jesus.
nearly $1 billion off the books. And now, by impairing the full amount towards Bungie's fixed assets, the games themselves, the studio, the engine, the developers, Sony has basically put their back against the wall. If there is further impairment down the road, they are going to have to go against goodwill to the value of the Bungie name itself.
Yeah,
the
they're
brand
in a
itself,
lot of trouble.
and their reputation as a
A
studio,
lot
which
of
would then
trouble.
ultimately be the admission that this acquisition was a complete failure and would likely lead to the dissolution of the studio or very, very
I mean, we know it's a complete failure already. Like it is one of those things that is the worst kept open secret. Is like everybody likes to keep saying, "Oh, it's not a failure. Oh, it's not a failure." Brother, you can't be looking at this like in any objective sense and telling me it's not a failure. Like I said it earlier, I'm going to say it again. Don't piss on me and tell me it's raining.
very significant downsizing, all of which I think was completely avoidable.
Yeah.
I think a good chunk of the
I
animosity
think it was
that we see today
avoidable.
from players is largely just coming down to the fact that they are not being listened to. And also,
Yep.
how often these publishers
100%.
and studios just deny reality that's right in front of them. Nobody wants to give us the time of day, but
Now,
they still
You can make an argument of whether or not you agree or disagree with the tactics being employed to become listened to. That can be a legitimate discussion. However, the fact still remains is this is because people are refusing to listen to their customers. And we know they've been refusing to listen to their customers for a long time. So the resentment has built up. This is not a problem that I would consider to be a vacuum issue. This is a stacking additive issue that is now starting to overflow in the most hyperbolic and worst type of ways.
expect every single penny out of our bank accounts. And the more that continues to happen, the
So
fewer
good luck,
changes that we
Bungie.
see in our favor, the worse things are going to keep getting. And ultimately, it's just going to end in failure. I am just so sick of these self-inflicted wounds. I mean, both Sony and Bungie ignored so many warning signs
I'm
on the
not.
way to get here that it is genuinely
Like, I'm not sick of these self-inflicted wounds. Kill your company, please. Do it faster so I don't have to deal with it anymore, so I can have better companies that come out of it. Like, yeah, it would suck substantively to lose, like, Bungie as a name, but I'm willing to sacrifice pretty much anything at the altar of better games at this point.
mind-blowing how they still ended up in this position. You know, before Sony even acquired Bungie, financial analysts were telling them that it was a bad deal.
Yeah.
Michael Pachter told Sony that they had vastly overpaid, that they were paying around
Oh, yeah.
$4 million per developer when most deals were closing at around $250 to $1 million. He contrasted that with EA buying Respawn for $700 million when that studio was
Holy
already
shit, dude.
making $700 million.
I do a bit of programming. I prefer creating small scripts for my needs to help me learn better. I recently made a Python script to notify me when games are on 100% sale on Steam. That's awesome. That's awesome. That is actually a cool Python script.
While Bungie, at the same time, was only making around $200 million, while Sony was buying them for $3.6 billion. It just didn't make any sense. And in his view, the
That's a
entire
really
deal
cool
felt
Python script.
directionless.
Oh
it
my
felt
God.
like it was made out of desperation because Microsoft had just bought Activision.
Have you thought about publishing that anywhere? Because like if it works really well, like you put it on somewhere, I'm sure a lot of people would really love that. That would probably could be something really cool that people would really enjoy.
And man,
Not to
was
force you
this
to do
dude
anything that you don't wanna
This
do,
was
but-
a company with no plan that was buying another studio with no plan.
Mhm.
I need you guys to understand the stupidity in all this. Like, try to make this make sense to me. You are Bungie. You have an audience that you've attracted for over a decade through Destiny, a live service MMO that, while it does have PvP, you guys have largely stopped supporting it, making the primary audience for the game overwhelmingly PvE. They like dungeons, they like raids, they like stories, and
That's what I heard about Destiny. Like that's why it's sticking out in my mind. They have basically killed, like, say there's like 3 communities on Destiny, they've killed 2 of them in favor of one that they don't even
when it
curate that
comes
well.
down to you making your next game, you get the bright idea that you're going to make something that audience is never going to be interested in. And on top of that, you're also going to effectively halt support for Destiny 2 while you support this new game.
And you're creating legions of people who will never play another game that you make because they've been so burned on the first game. Like, that's what a lot of people don't understand is, like, you are now creating your own worst nightmare.
Leaving that audience hung out to dry while you have no allies. You are either dumb enough to make a game with no interest in retaining the customers that you already have, or you made a game that was actively trying to ignore them, assuming they would either buy anyway, or you just didn't mind losing them if they didn't want to buy it. That is quite literally the only explanation here, because it's not like Bungie or Sony could be surprised by any of this. From the moment that Marathon released, everybody let out a collective sigh when they realized that this game was going to be a hero-based extraction shooter with no PvE. Like, how generic can you get? Why do you guys have to keep forcing this one single mode on everybody right now? What is with the obsession with it?
Because it's easy to make. You don't have to make a story mode. You don't have to hire writers to like write a cohesive narrative. You don't have to hire more art designers in order to make levels. You don't have to make bosses. You don't have to make, tough decisions on how to make an actual like single player experience, single player narrative experience. Not that they really value that now in AAA industries anyways, looking at you, Call of Duty, but you're cutting a bunch of other tangential things from the game, tangential expenses, if you really sit down and think about it. And when everybody has like this experience, you can guarantee that everybody has the same experience and control for that too. That's why you're not going to do it. From my perspective,
Reddit threads, journalists, content creators,
and it's
everybody was
lazy and
skeptical
awful
of this
and
game from day one,
anti-artistic.
and these guys never acted on any of it. Everybody kept asking whether there was going to be any PvE in the game. It came up again after their technical test when people were begging for it. Then you had all the time in the world after the art scandal to act on it. Sony delayed
And
the
they
game
never
indefinitely.
did.
Again, they did nothing about it. They ignored another warning instead. When the server slam came and you had 140,000 people that showed up to play your game, and they lost half of those players over the weekend when people have the most time to play
When everybody was like, this is dog shit, I'm done.
the game, when the game was free to play. Free. How
Holy
do you lose
fuck.
people when the game is free? Because they don't want to play it. Bungie heard
Yep.
all of it. They saw the relevant data. They released it regardless, and they have found nothing but failure. In fact, these guys are failing so hard that it's likely going to end up killing both of their games. LD, why would you say that? That's a bold claim to make. I don't really think it's all that bold because PlayStation cannot let go of Marathon. And because they can't let go of it, it's going to destroy everything that they have, at least with Bungie. They can't let go of it because they can't bury another live service game prematurely, not with how many failures they've already had.
They don't have anything. They literally don't have anything. Like, this is one of the only things they have, that and Helldivers 2, right? Everything else is either failing or like not making money anymore. They cannot afford to lose it. Like, it's so weird. They're in like such this catch-22 where if they continue supporting it, they're going to lose money. If they don't support it, they're going to lose product. It's just like, I'm fucked. It's basically Sony right now.
Not with how high profile of a failure Concord was, not with how much money they put into this game, and also with the impairment losses that they've taken against Bungie. Sony would have PlayStation's head because the investors would have Sony's head because of how much of a reputational hit that would take to the company
it'd
and
be
how
awful.
incompetent it makes these guys look. So they are going to invest in Marathon. That is where their focus is going to be.
I don't know.
And yes, by the way, before anybody says anything, I do know that Marathon is going to be making a PvE only
Oh, wow. It only took them, what, an entire year?
mode. But that's the problem.
Man.
They're over-investing. They're putting all hands on deck when it comes to trying to save this game and get it a heartbeat, or at least the best that they possibly can.
Honestly, I can see the business strategy behind it, though, because, like, if you're really looking, if you really want to squint super hard, the only way for them to be able to, like, come back with this is to invest money into it. Like, they kind of have to do that. Really, if I were them, I'd just let it go. I'd be like, nope, too bad. But they can't do that. They just can't. I think a script will only work on my Linux PC for now. If I plan to put it on GitHub for public use, I'll let you know. Awesome. Dude, I'm not going to lie. That'd be an awesome thing to be able to do, because there are a lot of games where, a lot of indie games do like 100% scale or sale, or a bunch of 100% sales for stuff like that. Hell yeah.
And in doing so, they're ignoring Destiny.
Yeah, I'll
They're
take
pushing
any
back
free
its
game that I
content.
can
The
get.
content is
That's a
likely
lie.
to be weaker or thinner or just
I'll take
worse
most
in
of them.
some way. And I think that Destiny, this might be a crazy thing to say, I think that Destiny is the winning horse in this race.
I think you're right.
And they're letting that horse just go out to greener pastures. Bigger name, already established. You have audiences that are already invested into it. Keep in mind that Marathon is a premium.
Like, I think that for sure it's a better horse, because I think it's got a bigger legacy, and people are begging for more content for Destiny. I don't hear people begging for more content for Marathon nearly as much as people are begging for more content for Destiny. Like, there are some like huge Destiny stands out there who want to do nothing but play Destiny all day. And you know what? If I were Bungie, I'd be looking at that going, maybe I should be giving them a lot of money. They need a No Man's Sky scenario, and I don't think they have it in them to do it. No, I don't think they have it in them to do a No Man's Sky scenario either. Because the reason why No Man's Sky actually like came back is because they actually listened to the people who bought their game. Surprisingly enough,
fixing Marathon might bring the players back, but you still have to push
Crazy
copies,
idea.
and that's something that Marathon hasn't done since day one.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't going to fix that problem. It might bring a few players in, but
people
not nearly
already
as
own
many
Destiny.
as they need
People
to be
do
able
not
to save
own
this
Marathon.
game. It just
you
doesn't
know?
make any sense to me. Backwards engineering Marathon to be Destiny 3 just is definitely not the route for these guys to go, even though there's been some people that have been talking about it. And the reason why I say that is because this game was never designed to be that.
It
so
wasn't.
It's going to be a weaker experience because of it. And just getting Destiny 2 to be profitable again is just a hell of a lot easier than trying to revive Marathon at this point. It gives these guys the time to be able to figure
Dude, it doesn't need a revival. It needs a resurrection.
things out. That's what they should be doing. That's not to say they should completely abandon Marathon, but that's what these guys are doing. They basically can only weigh on one side or the other. Only one of these games can survive right now. If I had to pick, it would be Destiny 2, and then you can figure things out with Marathon or figure out if you need to walk away from it. But that makes way too much sense. That's not what these guys are going to do, because that's leading in the direction of where the players are and what the players would actually want from them. And you're not a part of this conversation.
You're getting dangerously close to actually listening to the players. Oh my God. Banish the thought. These people don't know what they're talking about. They're just supposed to be good consumers.
You never have been.
Just
You're
consume
nebulous. You're a
game.
number on a spreadsheet. And the minute that I started thinking about that is the minute that I realized how much worse this is going to get.
Oh yeah. No,
The
it's
one thing that has struck me odd
it's
about
gonna
this
get
whole
worse before it gets
situation
better,
is that
for
Sony
sure.
and Bungie seem to think that they have time, seem to think that they have patience with the players. But patience, I think, is like the last thing that anybody has left for Bungie. I've covered this in the past, but these guys have torched their reputation and goodwill so much that I honestly think that they don't have much of either one left anymore. Years of some of the most blatantly egregious monetization that
people do not trust Bungie anymore, which is a shame, right? Like, people have nostalgia for old Bungie games. That's the only thing that's really keeping them afloat. But it is so true. Nobody trusts Bungie anymore. And it's sad.
we have seen in the
'Cause
industry.
it's just
Heck,
like
these
they
guys
did
have
it to
been the key
themselves.
leaders in normalizing a lot of the stuff that we've seen today, vaulting players' content that they had paid for, outright removing content that players had paid for, constantly taking
people are
more
not
while
happy
rarely
about that,
giving
by the
anything
way.
back, jading their own audience against them in the process, just to abandon them at Destiny's lowest point. I can kind of understand why Bungie would be chasing a fresh start with a new audience, but diving headfirst into a new genre, reviving a dead IP with little support with existing player bases, and then doing all of that to carry on one of the worst reputations in the industry is just, it's so incredibly self-destructive. Such a preordained failure that I can't help but wonder what both Sony and Bungie were thinking when it came to this. And
I can imagine what they were thinking. Money. And they thought they were going to get a lot of it, but they didn't. And after that happened, Sony was thinking, uh-oh. And Bungie was thinking, uh-oh. And both of them looked at each other from across the conference room and had this like clown-to-clown communication of, uh-oh.
I just kind of came to the realization that I don't think they are. No, like seriously, I don't think for a single second that these guys have ever considered their wider reputation in the games
Nope.
industry, what people think of them, how content their players are, or whether or not
No, because they think that they're a sacred cow.
they would even actually have any
Like,
support for their next
once
game.
you become
How
king of the
feel,
block,
what you
like,
think,
you
and what
don't
you're
realize
interested
that
in
you
is
lost
just not a
power.
part of the process, and the process is the only thing that matters to these guys. Looking at the history of Destiny and all of its expansions is going to tell you as much. Hell, it's been the cornerstone of their business for years. Justin Truman talked about this at GDC in his infamous train analogy, where he explained that Bungie had to quite literally train the company out of the mindset of over-delivering, of doing more that's expected of
Oh,
them.
Jesus.
He talked about how Miyamoto was
Okay, yeah, no. So I remember some people talking about this where they basically said you can't over deliver on your product, and that to me made me go, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like, are we real right now? Are you really going to be like, we can't over deliver on a product, dude, brother? You're trying to give me like something that's actually good." I hate that. I hate when people tell me, "Oh, we're not going to give you everything for what you're paying. We're going to give it to you down the line." It's like, oh, okay. then I'm just not gonna buy your product.
Wrong.
Got
when
it.
It said that a bad
don't
game
respect
is
me,
bad
I won't
forever.
respect
How
you.
Bungie has to stop their developers from adding something cool or delivering extra content, even when they could, even when they had the ability to, because it might set them back in their release
Jesus
schedule,
Christ,
or because
dude.
it might end up making the players expect more from them as a result. I think that this mindset fully explains the position that these guys are in right now, and it
Man.
explains modern Bungie, and honestly, a lot of
Game design per committee.
the games
Holy
industry
shit,
at this
dude.
point. But I don't think that these guys understand just how pervasive and toxic this idea of never over delivering actually is. Like, yes, it's going to threaten you with crunch. Yes, it's going to wear out your developers. Yes, you're going to end up paying for it later. But those moments where you blow players' minds are the exact moments that matter the most. That is hit creation. That is what this industry is driven by. That is the moment that you
Man.
turn a customer into a fan. That is the moment that people start buying your games because they trust your experiences, because they believe that you're about to do some work that nobody else can do. But these guys are prioritizing whelming their audience. Who makes that their goal? Why would you do that? Especially in video games. This entire industry is built around swinging for the fences. And this mentality is now
I cannot believe that people have allowed them to, I can believe that people have allowed them to get away with this. So like this is, I kind of maybe have an opinion that goes against the grain here, but this is not a game developer's fault, a game company's fault. This is completely on like incumbent on the side of the consumer. You shouldn't buy this shit. If they do this to you, you should take a principled stance and say, I don't want this. Unfortunately, we don't live in a reality where people are willing to give up like their nostalgia, their desire for a new entry, their like immediate, maybe somewhat not full gratification, but somewhat gratification in the media in which they participate in order to take a principled stance against these stupid things. And even I can't do that all the time. There are some things where it's just like, I hate this game company, but I'm going to buy this game. I do it all the time too. But we need to collectively eventually come to an agreement and say, we're just going to have to boycott this stuff. If people, and boycott's definitely a little bit of a dirty word because a lot of people use boycotting for somewhat ridiculous reasons. But really at the end of the day, like if we want it to get better, we just got to stop purchasing them. We got to stop showing them that they're going to make money off of these predatory practices. And that's the only way it gets better.
Now completely
it really
baked into
is.
their corporate structure, down to a developer level. The idea of
it's
never
gonna suck.
over-delivering, never overextending applies to their own people. I mean, it is their number one core tenet on their hiring page. World-class people, world-class teams.
Me
We hold
refusing to let
ourselves and each
Subnautica
other
2
to
out of
the
my cold dead
highest standard
clutches.
of mutual
Exactly.
respect, inclusivity, and so
Like that is one thing that that is one thing that is understandable. Is like, I know you really like Subnautica 1. I know that you probably are going to really like Subnautica 2, but at the end of the day, we both know and can admit, don't want to support Krafton, and it pains me at the end of the day to support Krafton.
support, knowing that team members.
It's like, I can't blame you. I don't, because everybody feels that way,
No
but like
individual
man.
ever could. Our wins are always team wins. And then their third one is, we know that our first idea will never be our best. Constant improvement means setting egos aside, sharing ideas early and often, and offering constructive feedback with open hearts and minds.
All right. So pursuant to number 3 on your list, why don't you go ahead and just kill Marathon and make a better game?
So your philosophy is to neuter your staff while getting rid of individuality in a creative field. Genius. Really. Creative industries are full of egos. They have to be. At some point, you have to have somebody in the room that has an idea that they feel is worth fighting for. Somebody.
You have to have somebody in the room that's willing to tell everybody who's acting like a stupid idiot to shut the hell up. We're doing it this way. You just have to have that. You can't have like this committee approach to it. Otherwise, you just make absolute dog shit. Like half of the games, or rather all of the games that were made back in the day that are considered like the best that gaming has to offer, I guarantee you there are dozens, if not hundreds of stories of people saying, yeah, this guy was a total asshole when he was doing it, but we were doing his vision. And it made it so much better.
be stubborn enough to say no,
'Cause
this
that's
is the
adult
thing.
life.
This is what makes this special. This is what we have to do, and we're going to do it that way. Obviously, ego can become toxic in some cases. Obviously, it can get out of control, but trying to strip it out of the process entirely is exactly how you end up stripping out any conviction or identity in any of your games. Great games do not come from everyone politely just handing around their ideas in a circle until nobody really feels all that attached to anything. And now when you go and you pair this with their studio philosophy built around over-delivering and never over-delivering, what are we even doing here? Don't get too ambitious. Don't push too hard. Don't try to surprise the players with too much because they might expect more from you later. Set your ego aside. Feed the process. Keep the train moving. And
I really can't believe that they have that as part of their core tenet and nobody's calling them out more for that. Don't over-deliver, brother. Ooh, that's
these
so
guys are sitting
slimy.
around wondering why audiences
Oh, that
feel like
makes me
nobody on the
angry.
other side actually gives a shit. You created a culture that is terrified of the one thing that people love games for in the first place, something unexpected, something unique, something creative, something individual. I've always said that the games industry has a leadership issue, and now Justin Truman is head of this studio. So it makes a lot of sense why these would be their core tenets, why this would be their belief, why this would be their plan or direction. You now have years of under-delivering, years of refusing to listen, years of neutering your own developers, and it's all finally catching up with these guys. The trains may be on time, but what happens when nobody's left at the station?
And you know they expect their employees to over-deliver. Exactly. Also, by the way, the trains will arrive on time. What an odd thing to say.
Justin. Something I don't think that these guys have taken the time to think about is just what happens when you continue to underdeliver. What happens when you care more about the process than you do the game or the developers or the players themselves? Well, you constantly are putting yourself a step behind. You might be getting your content out on time. You might not be crunching, but you're constantly losing interest and reputation.
Yeah, people don't
every
care
single
anymore.
step of the way, which means the next leap that you have to take to find any win is basically just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger until eventually you reach a point where there's just no recovery to be had. Instead of taking the train, your customers have now found another mode of transportation.
HR and other
These
employees
guys have moved on to other.
will now either bully or get rid of people who expose this stupidity. And it's not even that HR and other employees will do it. It's the entire industry does, right? They like have this weird consensus mindset that they all kind of like coalesce around. Like that is the one thing that really kills me about the games industry is like people use the word incestuous to describe it. And it's very true. It is very incestuous when it comes down to it, where you put one toe out of line, you're a pariah. And once you do it, it's kind of liberating in the sense because now you can no longer care what people say. Yeah, you'll never work in the industry again, but if you're a good enough dev, you can go create your own indie studio and make a good game.
Other games, other communities, and a lot
People
of these guys
will buy
are
it
probably
if it's
never
good.
coming back. When I look around the games industry, I think some of the most successful games that we're seeing right now are single-player games. And I think a huge reason for that is because those games are built around the idea that they need to blow your mind the minute that you press play. They have to be the game that has everything that you could dream of and more. And those studios and publishers are throwing everything they can at the wall just to get your attention. It's all gas, no brakes. Look at something like Crimson Desert.
It's always
Those guys
baffling
just
to me because
keep
we know
adding
good
more and more content
and
to
well,
their game
people
because
will naturally
that's
increase
what it
productivity
takes
when
to
they
make a
feel
game
properly
successful.
incentivized and valued.
That's what
You're
it
right.
takes to keep players happy. You're not trying to
But like this isn't even like a problem about being incentivized and valued. I don't think this is more of a problem about like not having people who actually care about their product. Because I feel like maybe they do feel like they're incentivized and valued in some way, but I don't think they actually like value the work that they do on the product. Maybe I'm reading that wrong. That
manage
might have been a
You're
confusing
trying to
thing,
win
but
them over.
I
think that
largely agree
Bungie
with
has
your
built
statement.
A culture of failure. And if they were still operating with a hit mentality, if they were still looking to be a blockbuster studio, if they were letting their developers be more expressive, if they actually listened to their audience instead of treating them like a problem to manage, I don't think that they would even be in this position that they're in today. You have two failed live service games, two objective failures, a fan base that you guys have spent years grinding down, and an internal culture that is built around under-delivering. How exactly are you supposed to recover from that? You either go all in on
Jesus,
Marathon while Destiny continues to spiral and you risk losing both games. You pivot to Destiny and now you're effectively admitting that you've spent the last several years completely wasting
Or you just kill the product and try to make a good game.
your time. There's just no clean way out for these guys because every single decision that these guys
I think that's
have
what it
made,
is. Yeah, there's no clean way out. Like that probably, like I said, that's the issue. unfortunately, you're going to have to get your hands dirty on this one and just make the decision. Peel
Has
the
been
Band-Aid
without
off,
the audience in
rip
the
the
room.
scab off.
You cannot build your future while treating the people who decide it like an afterthought. As crazy as it may sound, I do actually hope that this game recovers, though I don't actually believe that's going to be the case, but I hope that the PvE update delivers exactly what the game needs and it ends up being really good and exactly what people actually want from the game and they find success from it because, well, to be honest,
I agree on a directionality point on this one. I hope that people get what they want because I don't want people to be adversely put out by it. However, I want this game, I'm going to be completely open and honest, I want this game to fail because I think it kind of encapsulates a lot of the problems with the industry, and I don't think that they should be rewarded unless they make absolute sweeping changes to the way that they approach video game development. So on the one hand, I don't want people to be put out, but on the other hand, I think it would be healthy for the games industry overall. And yeah, you might call that a little bit maybe bad, maybe not fair, but in the same breath, I'm tired of being treated like dog shit by this industry, so I don't care.
with you, man, I'm actually kind of sick of seeing a lot of these games die and a lot of the players just not getting anything from it. They're the ones that are suffering the most from this. While these companies are definitely suffering a lot financially, the players are also suffering as a result. And that's the part that probably bothers me the most. But I just don't think that these guys can recover from it. And even if they do, they're likely just to find themselves in the exact same position. I mean, look at where they are right now. They can barely even support both games at the exact same time.
No,
Actually,
they can't.
They can't seem to support both games at the exact same time.
Neither of them are getting
read
supported.
through a lot of the notes where they were talking about the updates and the changes that they're going to make. They're talking about wanting to make sure that they can integrate all these new features by Season 5. It's not even Season 2 yet. You realize that you realize that Highguard had a 1-year roadmap, right? You guys don't have as much time as you think. I think these guys think they can play the long game, but I really don't think that they have that much time. This game just doesn't have that.
Imagine putting all that work into the 1-year roadmap for Highguard and realizing that all your work was for literally nothing because they basically died half a month later.
Kind of reputation. It's not like a No Man's Sky where millions and millions and millions of people bought that game. Everybody in the world was looking forward to it. Then it just didn't deliver. And then those guys went back and they cooked and they just ignored all the noise and put out a really good game later. You're not going to see that same recovery because this game just doesn't have that same reputation.
Well, they only got 88,000 on a max. So it's just they just didn't have people who bought it.
What they were getting into when they bought Bungie. I don't think that they did proper market research. I think that's pretty obvious when you look to see how much they actually paid for the
they got scammed.
Company
100%. It was just a big scam.
How much the company was actually making, but
man, I wish
this is a really
I aspire to that level of
industry, and that's
scam artistry.
You can try to buy your way into our lives, but it's not going to work. You can try to buy market share. You can try to buy your way into some of these genres. But
slaps that
if you don't
this thing's got 10, 1,500 miles
in it. If you don't
in it.
understand what's going on with that company, all you're going to do is just pay a premium on failing in public. That's all you're going to get. If Sony had seen how often, how frequently Bungie was disappointing their audience, how many times they had pissed them off, how many times they had taken things from them, how many times they had failed outside.
And that's because, say it with me, they don't care about the general gaming public.
Of the crazy peaks that they
Crazy
had seen
how
with
that
some
works.
of their dedicated expansions, I think that they probably would have maybe second guessed this purchase in some way. They should have. But this is the cost of not making sure that you're paying attention to see what the reputation actually is with the audience. What are players actually talking about? The people that are complaining online, especially when it comes to games like this, they're not in the minority. And I think it shows as much when you see how many copies of this game sold.
That is one thing that they probably don't recognize because they live in this I would say really hypersaturated bubble. They're constantly being told from outside sources, or rather what they perceive to be outside sources, especially in the games industry, other game developers in their area, other people within the industry, that what they're doing is this is what people want because it's what they think people want. Rarely do they leave and actually go into, quote, the field, close quote, to see what people actually want. And it is kind of telling because you can tell just when a game is put out there, yeah, nobody asked for this. And it's so blatantly obvious to everybody else except for them. It's almost, It would be unreal if you read it in a fiction novel. You'd be looking at it like there's no way that this would ever happen, and yet we're living it.
Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys
Hell
did enjoy
yeah.
the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment down below, follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter.
Hell
I have
yeah.
new merch that's coming. I'm gonna do an official announcement for it. Dude, it is so sick. I'm
Hell
so excited for it.
yeah.
But anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you in the
You're
next one. Stay
welcome.
cool, stay righteous, stay safe.
Family. Hell yeah. Thank you, Mr. Legendary Drops. Hope we got something that's playing, and that's fine. All right. Yeah, no, I definitely. Oh, God. This whole Bungie situation's fucking hilarious. I'm not going to lie. It really is like one of those things where you're just like, bruh. You got to hit him with the trill for the bruh. It's so bad. Man, I can't believe it. All right. Okay. I think we're probably going to end with this video with influencers are a disease. Family. Yes, we're probably going to end with this influencers are a disease video, mostly because it came out a while ago. I saw it. I wanted to react to it for a while. It kind of got put on the back burner, but I want to get to it. I like Sydney Watson. I think she's pretty fun. I think she seems like she's a pretty chill person. Yeah. We don't really, like, we probably agree on a lot of things. We probably disagree on a lot of things, but that's okay. All right, Sydney, what do we got?
So the thing people don't know about crime maxing is like you actually have salt in your tears. So what I do is I take the tears and I put it in my hair and it's almost like sea salt spray.
What a wild thing to say.
It's not funny stuff.
I think it's more than likely that collectively so many people are getting stupider.
You're very correct about that. And we can point statistically to the literacy rate among adults. Oh no.
Hi, my name is Sydney. Welcome back to hell. Before
Never
we
left.
get into this video, I just want to make note of the fact that I looked at my home screen here on YouTube before and there were three long form videos and everything else was short. So
What?
I'm sure that you guys have noticed that for long form creators, it's getting harder and harder to reach our audiences. Videos are not getting out there. Things are quite suppressed. And it's hard. It's hard on
You can change that by blocking shorts or telling YouTube to remove shorts from you. That's what I did. I can't stand most of the shorts.
the platform at the moment.
Some of them are
and
great,
if you
most of
ask
them are
your
like,
favorite
eh.
creators, they will probably tell you the same thing. So as long as YouTube is going to push shorts and make it quite challenging for long form creators, my only request here is leave a comment on this video if you like it, give it a like if you like it, or subscribe
Hell
to the
yeah.
channel if you like me. And if you do subscribe, make sure that you turn on notifications so that I can actually reach you, and hopefully YouTube will stop
Do all those things for me too, please.
unsubscribing people from my channel. I'm sorry that that's happening. These videos do take
I
a
still
lot of
haven't
time
gotten
to make,
over
and
my,
I really like it when they get seen, so obviously the way that you can help not just me but
You know
any
what? You know what? Boom. I think I'm already subscribed. Boom. Did that work? I think that worked. We did it. I still haven't gotten over that part where I have to ask for that
creator
stuff.
that you like is by engaging with us. It means a lot. And yeah, let's do the video.
Hell
Although
yeah.
I have been making content for many years now, actually, I hate being called an influencer because I don't want to be lumped in with these people.
We just walk her.
Absolutely
No,
fair,
you can't
by
get
the
my
way.
number. No, you can't get my number. Stop.
Fake
Ain't nobody asking for your number. Sydney, one of those people you can have a good time with despite the differences in opinions. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's what I'm kind of hoping to kind of be. Because, like, obviously I'm very opinionated. I have my own opinions about things. But it's just like, you know, as long as you're not an asshole to me, I'm not going to be an asshole to you. I'm going to try to be accommodating in most ways that I can. But yeah, she definitely seems like, you know, if you sat down and had like a tea or something, you'd have a great conversation if you're willing to buy in with good faith to the conversation.
Being fans is definitely peak 2026 behavior. I won't lie. I actually talked about this exact topic back in 2023, and since then, this plague of influencers has only gotten worse, metastasizing like a cancer through society. Back when I initially covered this,
That's why people call it a social disease.
I gave a lot of people a pass because we'd just come out of lockdown. TikTok had sort of newly taken off. I mean, it was gaining momentum, and people were looking to fill
Man, they look like a fent
a
zombie.
void in their lives by making themselves the
What
main
is going
character
on?
in their lives.
Is this performance art. Jesus Christ, what is going on? I'm still stuck on the salt and sea spray tears. I'm sorry, that was not the same thing. No, it's fine. We're gonna see a lot of things where, you know, I don't like to be the type of person to say we should point and laugh, because you should never point and laugh. That's not nice, and that's very rude. However, if you do it in the privacy of your own home and you don't tell people about it, I won't tell that you did it.
But since then, I'm sure like a lot of you, my goodwill towards these people has been used up. My understanding is more or less gone. And watching,
I mean, we got one person, Johnny Somali.
the trends get worse, watching these people become more and more awful towards other regular people in society, the more irritated I become. Somewhere along this road, it seems that
it's because it like outsizely affects people who are law-abiding citizens, because these people never get in trouble for their shenanigans, right? So it's just like, you're sitting there and you're just like, why am I like being affected by this and nobody's stopping this?
ton of young people decided
It's very
that they wanted
upsetting.
to try their hand at internet fame, and now we live in a world where absolutely nothing is off limits. We apparently live in a world now where oversharing is completely normal, and everything, and I mean everything, is filmed for views, including speeding insanely on side streets in order to make content to post on social media, because, you know, who cares if you kill other people?
I've seen a lot of these shorts come across my feed where people are like getting handed tickets and stuff like that for going like 150 miles an hour on like bikes on like the freeway and stuff like that. It's ridiculous. It's like, dude, you can't do that. Well, I mean, you can do it once probably, and then you'll end up dying. But like, still, it's like, I can't believe that people are getting away with it. There should be like an additive effect of you putting this on social media and showing it to other people to be like, bro, you can't be streaming yourself doing like illegal things.
People, as long as you get the views, right? Or spraying bug spray on food at Walmart.
Why would you do this?
An idiot person TikToker called Charles Smith did back in 2020.
By the way, that stuff is not like some of it. I know wasp spray specifically. It's not like toxic to you because it targets a different chemical inside of the wasps. I'm not suggesting that you ever, you know, ingest any of this stuff, but I've heard it's not like bad on your body, that bad.
5. Thankfully, he was arrested and charged for doing
Yeah, this guy should be like under the jail, by the way.
this, because I cannot even articulate how dangerous this is. Because isn't poisoning people so funny? Ha 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 ha. Hilarious. Even though a lot of Gen Z say that millennials are cringe, at least we got to grow up in a time when we didn't have a phone in our hand 100% of the time, and we didn't have to film and document everything always.
That is one thing that I will say is like, having grown up when I grew up, everybody, like the transition from people not having phones in their hands to everybody having phones in their hands was very jarring when you think about it, like from the future to the past. Because it's just like one day I woke up and like nobody's paying attention to anything, and everybody's like attention and focus is on something else.
We didn't have to turn everything we were doing into content. We actually just got to enjoy things as they were happening.
Do something else.
Gen Z, unfortunately, and the poor generations that are going to come after them don't really have that luxury. They are living in a world where everything has to be documented, filmed.
It's almost like they're living in Plato's cave if you really sit down and think about it. Like, it really feels like they're living in Plato's cave. Like, reality to them is not like existent in a way. Reality to them is like everything that they can see.
And blasted online for strangers to consume, judge, and like or dislike. And it's making people behave like absolute lunatics. I think this is why we are increasingly seeing influencers or influencer wannabes in the wild constantly interrupting ordinary life with their non-stop nonsense.
And like, these ones aren't even that bad, as long as like, you know, they're only filming themselves and only doing stuff for themselves. I don't care about that. It's just like, whatever. You want to look like a jackass? Go ahead and look like a jackass. I'm not going to stop you from looking like a jackass. What I care about is when they go and directly like fuck with people. Even if it should not be harmful for humans, we don't know if content matches to initial substance. Yeah, no, I'm 100% in agreement with you on that. Like, you should never do that. Like, I know that, like, I just happen to know that wasp spray isn't like that bad, but at the same time, you shouldn't fucking be putting poison on foods, no matter what the poison is like being directed towards under the jail.
Like this guy, for example, dancing obnoxiously in front of the Michael Jackson biopic screening, one that was somewhere, I don't know where this is, treating a public theater like his personal dance stage. Or this tool who ordered a burrito while deliberately making the worker's job as difficult as possible to fulfill.
This is also awful. Like going to like fast food places and trying to make the service workers there suffer. Dude, come on. Get off your power trip. Stop it.
Why y'all looking at my burrito like that? Okay. Yeah. Let me get some of this. Fucking me right now? Nah, hell no. It's a fucking joke. Nah. Let me get a full scoop of it. Why you
I feel so bad for this. I feel bad for this guy. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm not gonna lie, this really pissed me off. At the end of this video, this guy gives a free burrito, the one he just made, that's full of wet ingredients only to a complete stranger, and then films that person dropping the food all over himself, which is just... It's just such a shitty thing to do. Harassing customer service and salespeople has actually sort of become its own genre of content, and it never gets less irritating.
Imagine a genre of content. Man, dude, that should be a genre of going to jail.
And infuriating to watch. I just know that you people are not getting paid enough to deal with this crap. Same goes for harassing
I'm not getting paid enough to watch this crap.
Complete strangers in shopping centers or inconveniencing other people so that you can get your perfect shot. Imagine captioning this that other people have zero.
When you try to exercise, but you met with people who have zero self-awareness, brother, you're in the middle of a fucking sidewalk. Get off your high horse.
Just stop.
Yeah.
Just stop it. Stop. No. Just stop it.
Okay, at least this one made me laugh. This girl sticky taped her phone to a tram in order to film a music video for herself. And then
depends on the wasp spray. Some of them are straight up neurotoxins. Okay. Yeah, I guess you're right about that one.
Own species to inevitably die out. We deserve it. But for all you good, lovely, nice people out there, there's one thing that you actually don't deserve, which is having your private information sold by data brokers online.
Which
is why today's video is sponsored by Incogni. Have you ever taken the time
Which is why I say
yourself?
you should never spray poison in any form on food.
So much information out there. Things that you didn't even know could make it onto hundreds upon hundreds of these random web pages. For right now, you might be okay with this. But what happens when someone decides to steal your identity using your social security number? Because they can buy that. What happens
good luck
when
with that
they
one,
set
buddy.
up a credit card in your name and run up debt on that credit card or get into your bank account? I know this sounds crazy and honestly terrifying, but it actually happens all the time.
I knew a couple people who had their identity stolen.
By data brokers.
It's actually pretty bad. Like it's really not fun to have to deal with because it's so much like you have to go to the bank, you have to go to the government. It's awful.
From data broker websites, so freaks can't use it for evil. Thankfully,
hardly anyone 20 years ago could have imagined that people would film so much dirt on themselves, especially on live stream.
Work for you, and then they set about getting your information removed from these websites.
You're not wrong.
Honestly, every time I log into my account
like
and check
2006,
progress, I am astounded.
If you time traveled back to 2006 and told people what in 20 years the world would look like, they'd think you're crazy. They'd be like, there's no way.
Brokers can re-add your information.
Because that was like back in the day when people who were young enough who still had parents that actually gave them punishments in a way.
Another really cool feature of Incogni is their custom removal process too, where you can submit links to sites that have your information.
When parents, rare as it was, actually parented.
Removed. Since I signed up, Incogni has removed my information almost 1,500 times. 1,500. And saved me over 1,000 hours of doing this myself. On a serious note, I'm honestly
I could not even imagine, like obviously it's kind of funny because I'm here streaming, but I couldn't imagine like streaming myself doing stuff, some of the stuff that these people do. Like I'm not that desperate for attention that I'm going to like
keep your information safe by clicking the link in the description or going to
literally my entire life just for 2 clicks.
And of course, use code Sydney for 60% off an annual plan. I promise.
This tool will be great for connecting people and sharing our lives 10 years later.
Knowing that Incogni's on your side. Just in April 2026, some Florida teenagers were arrested for filming themselves driving a lawnmower, a ride-on lawnmower, into a Target for content. You guys,
Why
can't
would
see,
you do?
but
Oh my god,
in this voiceover,
he hit
I'm,
the
like,
door.
indicating as if I'm driving the lawnmower. What is wrong
Bro,
with
come
me?
on,
The day
man.
before
You
this,
can't even drive
apparently
that
one of
shit.
the
You
teens
broke
went
the
into
door.
a restaurant chain called Culver's, for people who aren't here in the United States, with a leaf blower.
Oh
Once
my
again,
God.
for content. I hope that sweet, sweet online dopamine rush was worth it, boys. There are endless examples on the internet of regular
this is making
people
me
trying
angry
to be
watching this.
somebody, making other regular people's lives so much harder just so that they can try their hand at their 15 minutes of fame. Like doing wheelies and deliberately hitting people's cars
Dude, oh my god, why would you do
out in the
this?
world. Who does this? Who does this? I hope YouTube lets me keep this clip up, because it really does indicate, to me at least, that so many people are just, they're not fit to walk among us. And in the last few months alone, a bunch of
Who does this?
genuinely large creators on TikTok or YouTube
Better question, who watches this garbage?
or wherever
Looks at state, checks
have been
out. Okay.
arrested and charged for doing extremely stupid, absurd, illegal things. An American influencer called The Real Tarzan went to my home country, Australia, at the end of 2025 and tried to
wrestle them gators?
a crocodile. This is very, very illegal back home for freaking extremely obvious reasons that I hope are obvious.
Why would you do this?
Yes.
That's the last of my worries. There's big crocs in here, so we gotta get out here pretty fast.
Actually, with social medias, I can't even say that anymore. Florida used to have something special. Yeah, well now everybody can be Florida.
It's getting ugly pretty quick.
It's time to stop. It's time to stop, okay?
I'm pretty sure that's like super illegal in Australia.
They're living creatures. They're prehistoric living creatures with big,
Mm-hmm,
snappy snaps.
Either both of us.
I'm going to tell you all this generally as a rule. I want you to absorb it into your souls. The quickest way to make actual Australians hate your ever-loving guts
Fuck with the
is
wildlife.
by messing with Australian wildlife.
Imagine.
Any Aussie, even if they're like a bit naughty, will have such a problem with you messing with any of our animals. Just don't do it. Be respectful of the animals and Aussies will be fine with you.
Yep.
For the most part. Also, littering. That makes Australians really mad. Don't litter. A French influencer, called something annoying, I'm sure, was recently sentenced to 6 months in prison for pretending to
For viral syringe injection prank. Holy fuck, I didn't think I would read that today.
inject random people with a syringe.
That's like a threat of terrorism.
I
Holy fuck,
obviously
dude.
don't need to tell you why this is a massive problem.
No, oh no. Imagine how frightening that would be. Like, if I were that guy who got that injection, I would probably think that, oh, he just put something in me that's going to kill me. All right, time to settle the score right quick. This balance sheet's gonna come out. They only provide more reasons to restrict the internet in every way possible. I hate that. You're right about that, because like I don't want more restrictions put on the internet, because obviously I think the internet's probably one of the last bastions, quote, of more access to free speech capabilities. But man, it's really driving a hard argument to remove these people if we could really identify them immediately.
Obviously, this is so beyond not funny. There's actually sort of another genre of video that I've seen like this, these prank kind of videos where people will throw flour or water or some other
Oh my god, yeah, these people are
completely benign
stupid.
substance in someone's face, but those people react so afraid when it happens to them because
Yeah, 'cause you don't know what
how
the
do they
fuck's
know that
on
someone
them?
didn't just throw acid at them or some other caustic substance or something like that. It's just
Right, you're literally causing public fear at that point. Like, honestly, I hope the book and its extra chapters, its downloadable content, so to speak, get thrown at these people.
It makes me really mad. There was one video that I was thinking of that I wanted to show you all, but I couldn't find it. But I commented on it when it came up on my feed on Instagram, and I said, like, this is not funny at all.
Yeah.
And all these people responded to me telling me to get a sense of humor, and I
Get a sense of humor. Okay, yeah,
can't
sure.
help but think they are stupid and wrong And
I'd like to watch some of the people commenting on that about some of the 1970s Mel Brooks movies. I'm pretty sure they'd have a lot of things to say about those.
awful, and I am correct. And you know, the worst part about traumatizing people for views and pranking people like this for views is that doing crappy things to other human beings gets rewarded on social media with amplification and likes and comments and views, and other people then also doing the same behaviors. It just makes me mad. I hate the fact that people can build entire careers on being horrible human beings out.
I hate that fact too. Like, honestly, at this point, it almost seems like it's kind of like a form of like, how would I say this? It's like a train wreck. Obviously, you can't look away, but it's almost like a blood sport where it's just like they demand people to ruin their lives, and the entertainment isn't in what they're doing. It's in the fact that you're watching somebody ruin their life
in the world to other human beings, and apparently all of this is what the algorithm favors. So we are so screwed. Back in June 2025, another American influencer was charged with a series.
Yes, the internet is one of the things that hasn't yet blown my mind. And even in Russia, they're now trying to build their own Chinese firewall. So things aren't going so well for us either. Yeah, I think you're right about that, where it's just like, there is like a weird give and take where at one point you have to give a little bit, at another point you have to take a little bit, but there's nobody's going to be happy at the end. And I really don't want to see it go away, but I want to see these people go away. That's for sure.
I'm doing pranks with little quote marks here for all of you that you can't see, where he threw food around people's homes and in restaurants. In one video, it shows this imbecile person pouring a bucket of beans over his head and onto the floor of a restaurant, forcing the owners to close.
And now they got to clean it up. They got to close up while they clean it up because it's a slipping hazard. You're interrupting their business. Come on, man.
Early to clean up the mess. Another video shows him pouring a huge container of egg yolks on his head outside of Ralph's famous Italian ices. This complete bag of smashed buttholes also convinced nice people to let him use their bathrooms, and then when he got in their houses, he also did something similar and made a huge mess.
Wow, imagine what an asshole.
What the hell? And don't get me wrong, guys, not all influencers are doing things like this. Others,
no, it's just the problem ones.
So just straight up giving people body dysmorphia. Let's take a look at Luxmaxes and Clavicula, for example.
Oh, jeez. We're going to talk about this now. All right, let's go.
Clavicula, who, fun fact, is known in my household as Claviclor because I had no idea what his screen name was, and that's what came to mind the first time I said it, so that's how he's known now. His real name is Braden Peters, and he's a 20-year-old streamer who has become the face of the Luxmaxing movement. Lucky him. He promotes things like bone smashing, like literally using a hammer to smash his...
I like have no comment about any of this because I find this all to be like so super ridiculous that it really just stunlocks me whenever I watch any of this stuff. Like, it's not like I don't have anything personally against somebody who wants to do whatever they want to do to try to make themselves look better. Sure, you can do whatever you want. I don't care. Like, as long as you're not harming anybody, it doesn't matter. I might think it's ridiculous, but if you don't care that I think it's ridiculous and we don't have a problem with it, who cares, right? But I do think it's a bit ridiculous, so I can't like there's no comment that I have, no insight beyond which that it's just like, okay, I guess we're doing this now.
Face to create microfractures, hoping that the bones heal back sharper and more chiseled. Although that's not how bones work, but okay.
My mom used to take these away when I was growing up because I was always bone smashing.
He's apparently been injecting steroids since his teen years, which he admits has left him infertile.
Jesus.
Smoking crystal meth to suppress his appetite and hollow out his
Jesus times
cheeks,
2.
as you do, and experimenting with peptides and planning major surgeries like double jaw reconstruction.
Jesus times 3.
Okay.
Dude, I was the best looking when I was doing the most drugs. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, man.
Return to Prime Clav. That's when I was doing meth literally every day.
If you don't use drugs, you can just about be anything you want to be.
That's true.
He landed in hospital very recently after a suspected overdose on one of his live streams, and then immediately bounced right back to everything. And if you don't think that people like Claviclaw over here are having an impact on young people, let me assure you that he is. Which is why parents are now...
There is like a non-0% chance that he is having an influence on people, like whether for good or for bad. So there are a lot of people who see this who go, oh my God, I want to be totally like that. And it's like, okay, Do you really though? And then there are a lot more people in the majority who see this and don't care, or who see this and are like, I do not want to be like this. Like, what the fuck is this stuff? And honestly, I count my blessings every day that there are more people in that camp than there are people in the who want to emulate them.
Are starting to freak out about their own children hitting themselves in the face with garage tools. While I was collecting Claviclaw clips, I also happened upon the Crimaxing.
He looks like he's from the 80s.
Crying on purpose so that you can collect your
Minus
salty
the
tears and
headphones.
then rub them into your hair like some kind of natural sea salt spray.
So the thing people don't know about Crimaxing is like you actually have salt in your tears. So what I do is I take the tears and I put it in my hair and it's almost like sea salt spray.
Okay.
It's not fucking funny stuff.
Are you talking to somebody or are you talking to me?
That's it. That's too much internet. We need to bomb the data centers. I think you can also just go to the shop and buy some sea salt hairspray or something. I just want to do some T-Maxing, you know? Like, I put it on my fingertips and then I put it in my butthole and then it just makes me... It, like, rejuvenates me from the inside out, you know? I'm still going to drink this, of course. My hands are clean. I don't usually...
Well, after that comment, I don't know.
Put my fingers in orifices. I mean, look, I get it. This is probably a joke. I hope it's a joke. If it's not a joke, I have questions. But these people are such weirdos that it's actually getting really hard to tell. I really do think that the looks maxing movement and the influences associated with it are quite interesting because this really is just body dysmorphia with a really, you know, a fancier name. And I do think in a lot of ways it kind of mirrors the same thing that we see on skinny talk and
That's still
fat
not how
acceptance talk.
sea salt spray
It's just-
works.
It's almost like orthorexia.
True.
It's taking things a little bit too far. Yes, you should diet and exercise and be nice to your body and try to look.
I mean, like, you know, one thing that's going kind of unaddressed here is it's kind of like a countercultural movement that's got a lot more within the context of it kind of behind it. So, and I'm not going to get into the context of that because that's a whole other can of worms and discussion that I'm not willing to have right now. It's a little late for me, but like the result of it is weird. Yes. And everybody can point at the result and wonder what it is. But like, if you've been on the internet, you know what it's about. You know the direction from which it came. You know the direction in which it's going. And you have a lot more nuanced of an opinion on it because like you can understand why they're doing what they're doing. Whether or not you agree with it, again, immaterial. I'm only making the point that you can understand it. And for the record, you know, I don't know. I don't know what to think about it. There are some things that I'm just like, I can see the critique, and most things that I'm just like, you are taking this to a ridiculous level.
nice if that's what you want to do, but I'm not so sure about some of the ways that we're achieving this. This generation of boys should be lifting weights and eating properly and living normal lives.
Yeah.
But instead they're stuck here measuring their mandibles and smashing their skulls and injecting God knows what into their faces, all because clout-chasing influencers turned mental illness into a marketable content strategy.
Jesus.
Find the zygo and then go right under it. And you want to go down your face. Ooh, that feels good. And then do it on both sides.
Okay.
And then blend it. But there's another trick after this that you got to do. So once you do this, this adds facial angularity. Like you'll see on camera, just kind of like adds a shadow, and then.
I mean, you want to wear whatever you want.
And
Go for it, man.
Emphasize it even more. So I got this blush. It's shiny. Put this on, and then watch this. Watch this. Put it all on.
We've come full circle. Wasn't it that like old kings and like medieval aristocracy would wear makeup, and then it fell out of favor? Now we're coming full circle where men are now wearing makeup again. Strange how history works.
Area. There you go. That's like the coloring and the angularity at once. Pretty mog in it. Pretty mog.
You don't want to be like this. This is disgusting. This is awful.
Thank you, Mark.
In every way. If I could kill it, I would.
What's so bizarre about not only looks maxing,
For me,
but just
red
so
pilling
many
and
of
looks
these new
maxing
age
are like
influencers too, is that they
extremes in horseshoe theory. We need common sense balance. Like, I kind of agree with you because like that's why I'm always super against like the red, like against like black pill ideology, because I'm not entirely sure what red pill means anymore because it's been co-opted in many different directions, right? But I know what black pill means, and I am very much against black pilling. only because I think that it's leads to self-destructive and incredibly destructive lines of thought that aren't healthy for you. But I usually tend to say, like, what you really should be focusing on is like literally only what you in the next 10 years would be proud of. And a lot of people don't have that foresight, because if you're focusing on the next 10 years of what you would be proud of, you're not going to, take the immediate easy gratification and easy route in order to like try to get whatever you can in the moment. I don't know. Like, I feel like people lack foresight because it hasn't been taught in forever. So it's a skill that people don't have to look towards the future. But then again, I could be completely blowing smoke out my ass. Maybe they do have foresight and I'm just not seeing something. I doubt it, but...
They feel a need to live stream every waking minute of their day from dawn till dusk. They're telling us what they're doing.
Yes, traditionally both men and women wore makeup throughout most of history. Actually, it only really fell off in, I'd say, like the 20th century. Well, it's coming back.
And there's something about that that's just... very unhealthy. Their audiences are also wildly dedicated to them, and perhaps
That's true.
the weird part about that is that many of these people are children, and they have access to all of this, and access to other platforms like Twitch, which apparently doesn't stop the...
So I'm like not really super worried about that. I'm only worried in the sense that I don't want to have to listen to their opinions online. My one thing is I will say that probably most people will grow out of it. And the reason why is because we're usually creatures of like, habit's the wrong word. We usually like to get locked onto something for like 1, 2, maybe 3 years, and then we'll give up on it, right? We're very periodical as a species. So I could see this being a non-issue in the next 2 to 3 years. I think that we'll probably see another problem, of course, but I think people are going to grow out of it. So I'm not so worried about that.
Likes of influencer Morgpie, whom I have honestly never heard of before making this video.
Yeah, I've never heard of this person.
Kink stuff.
Okay.
Kink stuff, yeah, on live stream. Okay.
Yeah, that's probably not good.
Place.
Oh, I saw this. Oh no.
Good.
Oh no. This is yeah, this is some real advanced, probably shouldn't be on Twitch stuff. Oh my god, dude. Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, where were we?
Is this a GIMP? What is going on here?
I can't take it. Okay.
Actually think an
wholesome content for everybody.
area of influencers that nobody talks about are those who proudly display their
oops, hang on, GTA San Andreas mode on. I'm gonna, you know what, I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna, if you know what I'm thinking, you know what I'm thinking.
Who proudly display their kink and fetish interests.
Normalize walking your guy friends on a leash. No.
As well, of course.
Oh my god, I saw this. I saw this. I don't remember where I saw this. This is there are Mad Max edits of this person, and they're fucking hilarious.
Puppy play
I
stuff
hate to
out
be
in the
that mean,
world.
but it's funny.
I would like for you not to do that.
You can't do this in public. Like, honestly, we need to make a law against that. Being like, guys, we know this is thinly veiled. We can't do this anymore. I feel like the YouTube's gonna come after us for watching that. I know, right?
Nobody. And I mean nobody.
Well,
wants to
this
see
video's been up for 2 weeks, so I think it's
and
fine.
More importantly, you should know that this belongs in your own home, behind closed doors, with the lights
People
off.
don't need to
But
know.
Like I said, the age of influencers has taught young people that the rest of humanity should have access to all the weird crap that you do and think and feel every waking minute of the day. And if someone shows up and, God forbid,
Sometimes internal thoughts are meant to just be that, internal.
tells you to stop, apparently that person is the one at fault. And for some absolutely crazy reason that is inexplicable to me, this also extends to the medical industry.
Yeah.
I am alarmed. I'm sure you've all seen the videos of wannabe influencer nurses and doctors.
This should be grounds for dismissal. The only problem is we are at a shortage of like personnel that do stuff like this. I think that if you start making content in the place in which you work like this, it should be grounds for dismissal. You shouldn't be doing this.
Dancing and mucking around in hospitals or
Might be a
other health
controversial take.
practices.
I don't care.
But some of this has been taken to the nth degree.
Some of it has been taken to political degrees too, and they've said something. People have said some stuff that's really kind of not super good and very unhealthy.
I found a story about a TikTok doctor. This is really disturbing. I found a story about a TikTok doctor
In the middle of surgery,
called Wendell
LOL.
Butte or Boot, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. Once again, sorry, I'm so bad at names. Who, while performing actual
Are you
surgeries
twerking
on real
while
life
doing
human beings,
surgeries?
was filming herself dancing and lip syncing.
Oh my
her team
God,
was
dude.
dancing and lip syncing.
Fire all of them.
All while patients
And whoever the patient is on the table, you should sue them
were
too.
sedated on the
Not the hospital, the actual people.
table. This is horrifying. She often held scalpels and other surgical instruments, sometimes without gloves or masks, or partially exposed patients.
Oh my God, dude.
This, of course, got her license suspended
Thank
because,
God.
thankfully, I guess here logic prevails. But she argued that, oh my God, this is crazy. She argued that all of her patients were consenting to these events. It's
Really? Okay.
so funny. Obviously, I wrote this. I wrote my own script, but rereading it out loud for all of you, I'm reading this again and going, what is happening? Since
Yeah,
going viral
right.
and being suspended,
Jesus
this doctor
Christ,
has been
dude.
sued for malpractice, alleging negligence and messed up procedures, infections, disfigurement, and so on. Recent news from
All it takes is one slip around the patient. That's hundreds of thousands of lawsuits and possibly jail time. Exactly.
2024 and 2025 even outline how she gave one patient brain damage.
Oh, Jesus.
through
Well, there it
cosmetic
is.
Procedure, and how she also illegally started practicing medicine again in Texas in 2024. I
Of course. Yeah, why not?
need to have some better, standards for medical.
Under the jail, under the prison. Give them 100 years. They don't belong in society.
How did this woman get hired again? What should deeply and inherently alarm most of you, if not all of you, is the fact that this is not the first doctor who's done something like this. And this is not the first doctor who's been arrested and been disciplined for doing things like this to patients. Nothing is safe. Nothing is sacred. So I think what I've shown you so far is pretty bad, pretty unawe-inspiring. But one of the things that I find very concerning about this age of new influences is how much it's all affecting children. And I know that in every era, for whatever reason, we've had someone somewhere saying that it's going to affect the kids, be it video games or
I don't know.
violent shows
We'll
or
have to figure
whatever.
out.
But in this case, it
I
really is
don't-
affecting the kids. And
I can understand why we're saying it'll affect the kids, right? For sure. I definitely can understand that. But at the same time, it's just like I said, I feel like most of them will end up growing out of these really weird ideologies. And at the same time, it's just I feel like there's a majority of people who see this stuff and are just this is awful. I feel like it's just, a really terminally online minority. But then again, I guess, I don't have the data. I don't know. I can't help but think that rationality will
they
prevail.
really are mirroring
but it might
what
just be
they're
a
seeing
hope.
online. I don't love showing children in videos for what I hope are obvious reasons, but here you can see this little kid slashing
really-
a jumping castle while someone else films him.
Are you real? If this were my kid, he
And other people are
Grounded
inside.
years.
I feel like this child should be on a list. Maybe. There's also this clip where a child is behind the camera.
how do they lose their fear of HIPAA is what gets me. They probably don't even know what that is.
He sounds very young, and he got caught stealing alcohol, I think, from what I read, and immediately jumped on a live stream to film
Not
the
if social
officers
media arrests their development.
and swear at them and berate them and call them the N-word. He's talking about showing them on his live stream and how he's going to smack the hell out of them. I'm obviously toning down the language, but you get the idea.
Man, stop playing on me, bro.
He doing this to officers?
You want me to turn my live on the other camera so we can box? And I'm gonna beat the shit out of you with 140 views on my shit, nigga.
Are you? Is this? Okay.
Cause my shit busting, nigga.
He does eventually turn the camera around so that we can see what
If I remember,
he
this
looks
video
like,
was
and,
the parent was
there's a
basically
joke in
egging him
there,
on. Damn it!
But I will not be making it.
I think the parent should be in jail then.
Now, while a ton of this behavior obviously results in legal consequences, as I've described already, the unfortunate thing is that some of it also results in fatalities and loss of life. There is such little regard for life.
You can't be in medicine and not undergo HIPAA training, literally. Yeah, you can not be in medicine and not undergo HIPAA training. You're correct about that. Whether or not they paid attention to it's a different story.
Right now, as long as someone is able to get the reinforcement that they want on social
Again,
media.
under the jail, under the prison, literally like stock and chain medieval punishment for this person.
Yeah. Like the child slashing the jumping castle isn't thinking about how it's going to hurt the kids that are actually in there. And the insane doctor isn't thinking about maybe killing her patients, which is horrifying, but all they care about is the dopamine
themselves.
rush from posting the video on the internet.
Yep.
This is probably pretty obvious, but some of these pranks result in death, and they have been resulting in death for quite some time. In 2021, 2 Canadian influencers were arrested for pretending to rob a bank and getting an Uber driver held at gunpoint by police when
Holy
they called
fuck.
him as their getaway vehicle, but he had no idea what
There's no fucking
was
way,
happening,
dude.
and this could have ended so badly if he'd done anything differently. In another 2021 prank, again prank with quotes, a YouTuber was shot and killed when he pretended to rob some people in Nashville
Honestly, fuck around, find out. A word goes to this guy.
with knives. What is wrong with this generation? In late 2025, a 17-year-old was killed and another young man was grievously injured when a group of boys participated in a TikTok trend that involved riding the top of a folding table tied
Holy fuck, dude. Really?
to the back of a car. I'm showing you a still of this
Oh
video
my
because
God.
I am absolutely positive that
Yeah, and the guy hits the ground. He probably got really, really hurt. And by really, really hurt, I mean, wherever he went after he lived.
that YouTube will not allow me to put the actual video on this platform.
There we go. His life is now in past tense.
February 2026, just a few months ago now, it was reported that a Colombian influencer drowned after he
wonderful.
performed a stunt jumping off a bridge into a river. In the
Hi, my name's Steve-O, and this is Jackass. I'm going to jump off this bridge.
video, he tells the camera in Spanish, "See you later," and then he jumps. And as he's trying to swim to the riverbank, he's just swept away by the current. The absolute
Oh my God.
wild thing is that influencers getting themselves killed in either the stupidest ways humanly possible.
Well, I guess technically Darwinism is doing its course, so I guess like there's a silver lining to this. I know it's a little
self-deleting
dark
or
to say,
being
but
murdered
like,
is so prevalent that
Man.
it even led to a slew of articles in late 2025 asking why so many of them are dying.
I wonder
I
why.
think that's sort of obvious there, Stephen.
Mhm.
As we get more and more and more online, although I think we're already pretty much there, the world of influencing is just going to continue to expand. We're going to have more people on all of these social media platforms trying their hand at infamy and virality and their 15 minutes of fame. One of my personal biggest problems with social media is the fact that insanity and extreme behavior is rewarded by the algorithm. People want to watch the car crash, and I know
again, who's at fault for this? Is it the algorithm for serving it, or is it the person for watching it?
that humanity has probably always been like this, but in large part it means
They
that
have.
in podcast
They
land,
100% have always been
meaningful
like this.
discussions and debates have fallen by the wayside in exchange for screaming at each other and conflict and whatnot. In the world of influencing, cute people with their cute followings and their cute presence on the internet is falling by the wayside because that just doesn't generate as much interaction as they would hope. And what is replacing all of this is extremism and radicalism and crazy behavior and
Sure.
extreme behavior that, like I said, is leading to
Yeah, because it gets clicks, and that's because it's what people want to hear. And this is exactly what I've been warning everybody for 3 decades now. Believe it or not, I have actually been warning people of this for 3 decades, ever since I was a young child. Around 3 decades. I have been telling them at the very far extreme of this, we are going to be seeing that people are going to be pushed further and further into radical camps. I didn't know it would be like where we're at today, because obviously I didn't know what the internet had existed, but I could be able to sense the id of like how people generally felt. And I always said, the further you start castigating people, the further you start propping up people who have these incredibly inflammatory and bombastic views, and the more that you don't understand the other side or the other opinion, is when communication breaks down, is when you are going to be getting people that want each other's blood. You do not want to live in that world.
loss of life and injuries and just generally disrupting the lives of others without any guardrails, with so many parents not doing any meaningful parenting with their children.
That's another
and teaching
problem
them
too.
Not to do
100%.
these type of things. Like I said, we're just gonna see more and more and more of this. And I'm positive that in the not too distant future, I'm probably going to be talking to you once again about this next level of craziness that comes out of this next generation
You 100% will, and it will be 100% worse.
of influencers who are coming
I
down the
hate to say
pipeline.
it.
In the end, I do find it quite sad and disappointing.
I've lived for a
that this
day
is
in
the
my life.
current
I understand that
ecosystem
principle.
of the online space, but like I've mentioned, as long as you have people being rewarded for this kind of behavior, they will be incentivized to continue to act this way. So I guess the rest of us are probably just going to have to stand here watching from the sidelines and let everybody else fight for their spot at the top of the idiot pyramid. Now,
Hell
on that
yeah.
note, and before I
Oh, wait, no, I don't want to do that.
check out.
Don't make me.
Using the link in the description. This is actually such a massive, pervasive issue.
Oh,
the issue
man.
of data brokers and whatnot. So I really, really, really super encourage you to go and check out Incogni. And if this is something that you are concerned about, absolutely sign up, make an account. I promise you won't regret it.
Okay.
Now I open the floor to all of you. What do you all think? What do you make of the influencers? Tell me, do you love them? Do you hate them? Do you
I hate absolutely that we've made it to this point where people react to this shitty behavior with an unbridled meh.
you wish that they just go away?
I
Do
wish
you
they
think
would
that
just
there's
go
probably
away.
some line here on what is acceptable and what's not? Do you think that
I think that we need to start punishing them with the full extent of the law. Legal systems need to be unified in this.
everything is fine? Do you think that they're sort of just taking themselves out and it's natural selection at play?
That too,
When these
yep.
people do things
Oh,
dumb
100%.
enough that get themselves killed or get other people killed? What do you think of the looks maxers and the bone smashing and all these kind of things?
Definitely
is this
weird.
Good? Is this bad? Is this body dysmorphia? And what do you generally make of this issue overall? As always, if you have made it this far in the video, congratulations. I always like having you along for the full ride. If you are new here and you're not subscribed already and you would like to see more of me and more of this kind of content, feel free to
Hell
subscribe to
yeah.
the channel, as well as leaving this video a like and a comment, because I do read the majority of them and I like hearing your feedback. Like I always say, I hope you stay safe and well and make good choices, and I probably won't see you guys before the weekend, so have a tremendous weekend, and I will see your wonderful little faces in the next video.
Hell yeah. Goodbye. Oh, hang on. Nope, we don't want an autoplay. All right. Definitely hope for the best, prepare to sue their asses off to prosecute this behavior. Yeah. I'm prepared for some pretty I'm prepared for some pretty hefty legal issues on that one. It's going to be interesting. All right. Unfortunately, it is now late and I must start to wind down for the night. Thank you everybody for coming out. Thank you for all the chats. Thank you for sticking around. It's great to have everybody. Tomorrow, we are going to be playing, it looks like, hang on, Union Syndrome Rhythm Psychosis, which is a game that came out not too long ago. I hear a lot of people really like it. It seems like an interesting premise. Unfortunately, or fortunately, Forbidden Solitaire did not win, but that is okay. Goodbye, and good night. I shall see you tomorrow.